So good. So good.
Yours is so much better than mine.
What do you mean? You're on the toilet, Harry.
I forgot I filmed that. Genuinely forgot I filmed
that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Go Live. I didn't intend to just add reverb for gentlemen. That sounds sexist. Ladies as well. That was just weird. Thank you so much for tuning. It's all going
wrong. I didn't mean to go on. I'm sorry, everyone. I promise it's actually going to be a really good show with, like, you know, good points, concise, well spoken, all the usual things you come to expect, and a bit of Gaz.
5 seconds in, and Gaz has got us cancelled.
Well, it's going to be an incredible show. It's going to be an incredible show. Honestly, we have had a mad week when we have the debut of 2 people who have never graced us with their presence, and it's going to be a spicy show. I swear these 2 gents couldn't be any more different, though. Fuck. Look at Harry's face. So. It's an all-British panel. Right, mate? Wingardium Leviosa. I know that's all what you freaking Americans are thinking. Harry Potter, crumpets, bad teeth, here we are for your viewing pleasure. But shout out to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for waiting. We're going to get into the source. This week has been mad. So I want to go into it. But before we do, usual standard protocol. Asa, thank you for saving me there. I think you saved me there. Or you threw me under the bus. One of the things, but it's fine. It's you.
I did a little bit of both. What I was going for was throwing you under the bus, but in a way that buys you that little bit of time to just realize where you are and what you're doing. Which is why we work so well together. I could see you needed it. I could see you were splashing around, making a mess. I was like, yeah, no, it's good. We got, like you say, two not new people, but new to the show, first timers. So let's get into it and hear a bit about them. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, actually, we should. This is debut time. We get a little bit of history. This gentleman, we've bonded, shall we say, over some furore that was going on in the interwebs this week. A fellow lawyer, but a much more accomplished one in terms of mergers and acquisitions, of which I have no experience. This gentleman knows what he's talking about, unlike some other melts out there. But it is Florian. No, it is Luke Steele. How are you doing, man? Welcome to the Madhouse.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, really appreciate the. Well, just having me on. It's been a mad week, really, hasn't it? Mad few days that we had, but we bonded over, you know, general PTSD in terms of arguments. So, yeah, we'll talk about it a bit. But yeah, no, it's great to be here, and I don't think me and Harry disagree over everything. I don't think we're that different. I think, we'll see.
I'm just a lot louder, I think.
Just a lot, yeah, just a lot spicier than I am. Yeah. Just, yeah. But thank you again for having me.
Hell yeah. No, thank you for coming on, man. And I'm honestly just grateful for the whole set of circumstances. I've been hearing about your name for a while. Like, hey, you're on Boom Show. You've been on Boom Show a few times. And I was like, you need to listen to Luke Steele. And I was like, well, what's his YouTube channel? And you don't have one, do you? So it's like, I don't know where to see your works, but hopefully, and really wanted to get you on here to educate a lot of people, including myself, on this situation. It is quite a fluid one we will get into, and very complicated as well. So it's not like we're going to speak definitively like some people like to do. But we'll get into that spiciness later. But last, but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, if you do watch this show, if you are connoisseurs of the source, then you know this man. He has graced us with his incredible cameos. World Hunger, indeed. It is Wooly Game. No, it is Harry Go Lucky from Gamers Watch. What's up, everyone? Hey, you know when you get a booyakasha for all the shit you've done for us.
Oh man, it's great. It's genuinely great to be here. I've come prepared, so I'm not just here on my own. Hang on a sec. I've got a little box of goodies. So I've got an old skanky sriracha sauce that I found. So I've got the spicy sauce, the old spicy sauce.
Spicy.
And then I got light soy sauce. Oh, my camera. Got light soy sauce and dark soy sauce. So if I need to just have a little bit of sauce, then we've got the Aldi special light, but the dark soy sauce is there. If things do
I know I'm outnumbered here, but that is a purely white man sauces you guys have got.
Well,
I need to give you some spicy sauces, man. That to me is like mayonnaise, man. Come on.
I've got pre-sauced ketchup. Didn't even know it was a thing. Just a packet of pre-sauced ketchup. Weird.
You've got that there with you.
It's pre-sauce, isn't it? So we can get into some pre-sauce, and I've got the tomatoes there to go with it. No, it's great to be here. I'm ready to piss a lot of people off in the chat, I think. If you know me on Twitter, you'll probably have already blocked me or muted me at least. So it's good to be here. Maybe I'll get a few unblocks today. Who knows?
Harry, it's so accurate, probably. You are probably blocked by a lot of people. Why is he blocked,
no
ladies and gentlemen? It's because he just doesn't toe the line and he's just relentless. If I was a vocal anti-Halo guy. It wasn't anti-Halo, but in my scathing criticism, Harry would go on so hard. I was like, Harry, fucking give it a rest. These people
you used to message
already
me.
dead.
You used to message me and you were like, Harry, you need to stop. Like, Staten isn't listening. No one at 343 is listening to you anymore. Just chill your beans, dude.
If I'm saying that and I'm blocked by 343, how bad is it what you do?
Twitter tells me, I was saying this just before we went live, Twitter tells me I don't think you should tweet that out. And I often don't. So the stuff that's on my Twitter is like the tame stuff generally, which I think says a lot about how much of an idiot I can be sometimes. But it's good to be here. I'm buzzing.
Oh man, I'm buzzing already. I can't wait to get into it. It's gonna be a crazy one. So this week let's get into this. Wait, actually, hold on. We didn't even really. That wasn't much of an intro. We need to know let's go into the gaming side of it. Luke, yeah, you're an M&A lawyer and all of that by day, but by night you're a gamer. I can see it in the background. So, well, that's more movie paraphernalia there.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
What kind of games you're into? What have you been playing?
That's a big question. So I play everything, generally speaking, in terms of platforms. So I have a Series X, a PS5, I have a Switch, I have a gaming PC. I'm probably more of a PC gamer than a console gamer. So here is where I would usually play the majority of stuff. But the last week, the week before I was on holiday, so I didn't have really chance to play anything. But this week, I've been mainly playing Tears of the Kingdom, which is special game, man. Special game. But I've also I'm still like I'm so like my backlog was always massive, but it's got even bigger recently. So I'm still trying to get through things like Resident Evil 4 remake, for example, like Dead Space remake. I'm about like halfway through both of those things. And then what came out in between those things? Jedi Survivor, but I got that on PC, and the PC port is dog shit. So I've kind of held off playing much of that for now. So but yeah, so those are the things I'm playing at the minute, but mainly Tears of the Kingdom. It's the one that I keep thinking about, and I know a game's good if I keep being like, oh, maybe I should play like an hour of that or come back to it. You just kind of get lost. And also, I don't know about you, but like when you play that game, you play it like an hour, 2 hours, and you think like, what have I actually accomplished in that time? like what have I actually done in the game to progress it? Like I've done barely anything. I've built like a raft and a small nimble jet, and that's it. So, but it's great. It's really good.
It is that game. You're so spot on with the time essence of it. I'm like, this one's going to take me ages to complete because
long time.
I'm having fun, but you're not actually doing anything. We had a very fierce debate last week about what Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom represents, which I'm working on a personal video on the channel. But that game is beautiful, and I really do think people need to, if you're out there, I'm not saying pirate the game. There's like PC mods. If you buy the game on Switch, that I think you're entitled to try it out on PC with the PC mods. perhaps. I'm not going to speak on the legality of that, but it's such a beautiful game. Well, maybe
Nintendo
not in
lawyers
terms of
right now are writing up litigation against you, by the way, Gaz, just to let you know.
I'm like, fine, let's go. We're used to it. Well, not really. We don't get sued. But you, Harry, what have you been playing? Don't you dare say Halo Infinite. I will shit on your head.
Absolutely not. So I set myself a challenge at the start of the year that I wanted to play and complete one game every week. So I've not been able to get into any big, massive games. So this week I played Hivebusters that I'd never played before. Completed that last Sunday. After 12 years, I finally completed Trials Evolution. It's my favorite game of all time, and I've finally gone through and gold medaled all of it. What else have I played? Oh, Titanfall 2 campaign. I just finished off last night, and it is honestly the best FPS campaign I think I've ever played. Absolutely
Is that the first time this week you completed it?
Yeah, I'd never played it before. I played the online multiplayer, but I'd never played the campaign. And I played it in literally one sitting, and it was incredible. And I just want to go through it again and again and again. It is quintessentially the best FPS game I've ever played. And it breaks me that we won't get a Titanfall 3. We never will.
We might do. I don't
know if Apex stops making money, maybe, but it's just, it was so good. So yeah, I'm on Titanfall 2 was game number 35 that I've completed this year. But the thing to remember is a lot of them are smaller games because I'm doing one a week. And it's funny, last week you were talking about Somerville and the dev of that saying Game Pass isn't great. Maybe if he made better games, maybe it would be, because that was the first game I completed this year. Absolutely hated that game.
Oh, really? Okay.
It just did nothing for me. And I love games like that. Like Limbo is one of my all-time favorite games. And I saw the comments. And I saw the comments that this guy was making, and it irked me a bit.
What kind of comments? What are you talking about?
Well, about the fact that he didn't think the Game Pass model was that was comments. He wants people to sort of I'll show you one video and 3 screenshots and then buy my game for $30. I don't know. That just hurt me a bit. But yeah, I'm on game 35. I've got a few lined up for the next couple of weeks. I'm ahead of myself a bit, but Titanfall 2 was just, oh God, it was good.
I might just go back again. I went back like a few months ago, but it's playing right now. It's so beautiful. Respawn, come on, man. There's so much scope with this. This was beautiful. The funny thing is, a lot of people gave Respawn so much flack for not having a single player campaign. I was actually defending Respawn. It's like, if they don't want to do it, stop forcing them to do a single player element of it. And boy, was I wrong. Well, whether or not they were forced, or they must have had some appetite and vision to deliver something. Well, a single player campaign component that is considered by many as one of the best, if not the best, single player FPS campaigns. I wouldn't say the best, because Halo 1 and then Half-Life 1 or 2, then this one. But
Titanfall 2 for me is the best purely because it has so many different styles of gameplay that merge so well together that it ticked every single box. Like, there are some instances, because I went back to the Master Chief Collection a while ago, where there were some levels within CE that it just didn't work, but like every single level of Titanfall 2 gets better and better and better until that
that's very true. That's very true.
Endings. Like, there isn't a bad mission. The only problem that I had with it is it was just far too short. It could have been twice as long, and I would have.
The short actually makes this sweeter. I think. I
wanted more.
Yeah, I did, and that's what a game should leave you wanting to feel 100%. Without really prematurely cutting off the experience. And I think Titanfall did do that. Halo, you're right though. With Halo CE, you had the infamous library level that wasn't that great, which I hated. I think universally hated by most. But yeah, good games. I'm with you there, Luke. I have the Resident Evil 4. I've got Zelda, and I've got freaking Hogwarts Legacy, and I've also got Jedi Survivor to complete. And then they want us to make content. And then do our day jobs. Brilliant. Yeah, but we are grateful for the privilege and having such a lovely community and audience. Shout out to 330 people already watching. Smash that like button. Asa, what have you been playing? I've been watching you play, so I kind of know, but tell the people.
I don't know. What have I been playing? You tell me. I've forgotten.
I actually just forgotten as well. You streamed it this
was a
morning.
test.
What were you playing? It was. I know. It was. What you playing that game that Harry was just talking about? I forgot the name. That failed the indie
Somerville.
dev.
Today I played Somerville for like the entirety of it from start to finish. There's a few people in chat that were there watching, and they trolled me royally because there's a part quite near the start of the game where there's an opportunity to sit on a bench looking over a landscape. And I went over to this bench, like I'm going to sit on this bench and get some exposition. But the bench was like positioned right beside a dog shit bin. And I was like, no, who in their right mind would sit on a bench that close to a dog shit bin? So I moved on to the next scene, and they spent the rest of the game telling me that I'd missed like critical exposition and the story was not going to make sense. And I bought it entirely until the closing credits that I'd just ruined the whole game for myself by not sitting on that bench. And I found out they were just making it all up. So that was probably more fun than the game itself. But yeah, I've been playing that.
Did you have the same problem as me, Asa, where it went from controlling really well, so some of the levels, like the controls were so tight and so fluid, to then immediately cutting to some of the worst feeling controls of all time. Like stuck in treacle.
Quite have that issue because it always felt pretty rotten to me. Like mechanically, it's just, it was never sharp. It was never snappy. None of the interactions felt particularly good on a controller. And to be fair, that's not like, it's not primarily what it's going for, but it does pull you out when you're like, I need to move this cart. I can't freaking move the cart because the controls aren't doing what they're supposed to. It does, like, yeah, that does diminish the experience some. I've been playing a bit of Asgard's Wrath on the VR treadmill, running around through a different take on Norse mythology, which is really, really interesting when you do like comparison to God of War, because everyone knows God of War 2018 and the Norse setting that it's got in there. Asgard's Wrath was relatively big in the VR space, like AAA as VR goes. Game set in Norse mythology that came out at a similar point in time to God of War when they started going the Norse mythology route. So you got these completely different takes on the same characters, as well as being a very good game itself. It's just like, it's quite cool to side by side the two of them. And I've been playing something else, Warcraft 3. I've gone back in time, so I run around in the future on Asgard's Wrath, and then I go back and play some Warcraft 3 just to try and remember how I used to play games a long time ago.
Wow. Well, okay, going really good back. I want to try Asgard's Wrath as well. I've heard great things about it. Pretty crazy game in terms of concept. But okay, fair enough. I've just been playing Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and a bit of Forza. Not that much. It's been a mad week at work. I've been playing the Switch. Actually, I've spent hours playing the Switch on the way to work. I'm one of those weird guys in my suit on the tube, and on the way back, I felt a bit of shame for like 3 seconds, and I was stuck in the world. And it made the journeys so short. Honestly, like the ADHD helps, but just like, oh shit, I'm here, and just like, I didn't want to go. And even during lunch, I was playing and people coming around. I was just like, fuck, just leave me alone. Yes, I'm playing a video game. But yeah, it's Zelda. I know you're not a fan, Asa, of like playing, mobile and handheld, but to me, it's so cool to play this game, out and about, and kind of fits into the lifestyle like this week of working, traveling and playing. It's
not that I'm not a fan of that. I totally get that. Like, if you have those circumstances where it makes sense to play on a portable device, then have at it. It makes all the sense in the world. It's just that I don't personally sit on a train and look at a device without getting sick, and I don't personally play games outside of my house. So it's not that I don't get it or think that they're like have no value for people. Totally do understand. If that suits your lifestyle, have at it. For me, big screen or VR, and I'm good.
Yeah, not fair enough. You can throw up in VR. That's brilliant. That doesn't make you ill, but what it does, you weird guy. Well, Asa, you know what? Just as before you start flagging, I will get the topic that you despise out of the way first. It has been pretty mad. We were talking about it. We said if this didn't happen, the deal would die. But here, lo and behold, the drama continues. And here we are. The EC Commission has approved Microsoft's ABK acquisition. And lo and behold, social media was fun. It was fun. A lot of people were so bold that they were like, can't wait for it to be blocked tomorrow. Can't wait for it to be blocked today. And, a lot of people were of the view that it was inevitable after the CMA's determination, but the commission did side with Microsoft. However, the commission also did determine that the deal could potentially harm cloud gaming services. However, what the EC did was manage to fashion a win of sorts by forcing I think you can say forcing Microsoft to a certain degree by adding a condition. And well, the condition, or whatever Microsoft has agreed to, is to now offer all consumers in the European, I think it's in Europe. That's the only jurisdiction they have, not over the world, but to give a free license to stream all current and future Activision Blizzard PC and console games for which they have a license. So my understanding is if you buy COD, you can, I don't know how that would work technically, but you can stream through the various cloud services, and also offering a free cloud license to cloud streaming services. I think all cloud streaming services, so they can almost, I don't know, that part of it I need to figure out, but I'm pretty sure it's quite broad to stream any of these Activision Blizzard PC and console games. And it isn't just limited to Call of Duty. That means pretty much, if my understanding is, most or a lot or all of the ABK games, gents, can one of you, do you know?
Yes, more than that. So it's a lot like the deals that Microsoft were already striking with people like GeForce Now and Boostroid and companies like that. So the ones that their service is essentially a gaming PC in the cloud, but it lets you play either free-to-play games or games that you own through one of the supported stores. And at the moment, in Microsoft's case, that supported store is Steam. So you can't get these games on Game Pass and play them through GeForce Now and all the rest of it. This might change in future, but you can get them on Steam. Like many other publishers' libraries, if you buy a game on Steam and you subscribe to one of these services, then you can stream the game via the cloud. So it's the deal that Microsoft were already offering. The whole situation around cloud, like, I hate everything about talking about the deal. It's boring as shit to me, but it's really, really interesting that the fine line with the CMA that made it hard to predict was, we said for a long time that cloud gaming is the big question, like if it's competitive there and how you protect a nascent market, whether there is a risk of suffocating that market if you block it. And essentially the only difference between European Commission's verdict and the CMA's verdict is how they feel about that particular question. So it's like knife edge between them. The only thing that I will say, the European Commission, there's one minor detail in all the quotes that they say around cloud that makes me question them a little bit. And like you say, we haven't actually seen the specifics of the concessions and the remedies and all the rest of it, but I've seen more than once from various people at the Commission that as a result of the concessions from Microsoft, you're going to be able to play these games across different platforms and operating systems. And that operating systems one is quite key because it's quite a muddy conversation. But if you're playing Call of Duty on your nice like Linux operating system at home and it's running on Windows in the cloud, this is a key differentiation between the way the CMA and the European Commission are interpreting what these concessions actually are and how significant Windows is in the whole thing. But generally, like, the broader point is what I said a moment ago about whether you can stomp out a nascent market or whether you should be doing everything you can to let it flourish. Does that get us where we are?
Good. It does. So thanks for explaining it that way and the differences in mentality. And the CMA, the EC doesn't feel like it's snuffing out competition as a result of this concession. But it's still a nascent market.
They specifically addressed that, though. They said it is a nascent market, but we believe that by supporting this, like, this is the way that market can grow. So they recognize that they need to be careful around the competitive side of it, but they think that through this, and it's hard to argue against them because this is why it was on knife edge in the first place, but they're saying that with Microsoft investing in this, getting all this content and really pushing forwards cloud, this could become a viable market a lot sooner, and you could potentially be bringing games to people that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have access to them, and that makes it worthwhile to let it through and push it and support it.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Luke? Do you agree with that rationale?
It's a value judgment. No, I tend to steer clear of those, but I think the rationale is fine. I don't think it's a disagreeable rationale. I don't think it's so abhorrently wrong that you could be like, well, that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think, the EC basically said, look, we do think there are competition concerns here about this deal in respect to the distribution of PC and console games on cloud game streaming services, but that they're effectively allayed by the remedy that Microsoft have offered us. That's a regulatory judgment. So as far as I'm concerned, that's right. Absolutely fine. I think it would be interesting because, as has been said, as Asa said, we don't have any of the decision text from the EC or anything like that, so we can't see exactly what the convincing nature. Obviously, with the CMA, you can go and read a 400+ page report about exactly, how they arrived at their conclusions. So here, all we have are these press releases, but it's going to be really interesting when they come out, and I'll probably read them because I'm a bit sad like that, but there we go.
The CMA stuff, though, doesn't matter because Rishi's just going to push it through. And we were talking to Rishi literally before we started. We just had Rishi on the phone and we were like, hey, Rishi, we want to play. I want Diablo on Game Pass. And Rishi was like, don't worry, mate. Leave it with me.
He's going to go and drop kick Sarah Cardell at some point and then just pop himself as the head of the CMA for 15 minutes, push it through, and then he'll go back to ruining the rest of the economy.
We'll take one 15-minute phone call, and then we've got Diablo 4, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's go.
Just in time as well.
Oh God, yeah. We'll touch upon the ability of the executive to do exactly that and subvert all independent regulation laws and
just really quickly ask Luke.
As well.
Just want to really get a follow up from Luke because you said there that the European Commission's line of thinking is like you couldn't consider it abhorrent or unreasonable. Would you say the same with the CMA stance? Do you think they're both reasonable positions, or is one of them loony?
I don't think either of them are unreasonable. Sorry, I don't necessarily agree with the CMA's decision, but having read the report, I understand the rationale. I understand how you would arrive at that conclusion. Is the political way of saying it.
So, Luke, for you, would you say that the information that they've got, as they're viewing it, is correct, but the information that they have isn't what it should be? So like the way that they're looking at the information regarding this deal, they are obviously going to come to a decision where, yes, we should block this, but actually the information itself might not be correct, and that's how they've got to that decision.
For the CMA, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, for the CMA, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if I understand what you mean, I think you mean are they perhaps looking at information in such a way that their interpretation of the information could be wrong, such that they arrive at the conclusion that they have. Yeah. I think that we'll probably touch on that, but I think that it's arguable because, first of all, like notwithstanding anything, the CMA had, and probably the Commission had, like 3 million documents, millions upon millions of documents, like information that we can't even comprehend, that will never be available to us, including internal party correspondence, emails, telephone logs, etc. All of that stuff, any of the forecasting stuff that these companies do, any of the strategic analysis, consulting, anything around that. So we don't see any of that. So I always think it's really difficult to say whether the information that a regulator's interpreted has been interpreted in an incorrect way, because we don't see anything. We don't know what that information is broadly. We know some of it, but we don't know. So I think it's a bit difficult to say that, and I think it's especially difficult to argue that because the fact is, not just the CMA but any competition regulator, they have an incredibly broad discretion in how they interpret the information that they're given, and you can have kind of wildly divergent outcomes from different regulators, as you have here, right? Funnily enough, I don't think you have that much divergence between the three primary regulators here, because they all think there are competition concerns in cloud streaming. It's just that two of them being the FTC and the CMA, say we don't think there's any remedy other than prohibition in this case. I mean, not with the FTC because it works slightly differently, but we don't think that our competition concerns are allayed by anything other than that. Whereas the EC go, actually, you know what? we think it's fine. Which one you agree with depends on, I think, your view of this acquisition in general and how much you want it to go through. But I'm again, no value judgments.
Unless you get paid.
Unless you get paid. Yeah. Oh yeah, then I'd so.
So then feel that Osmans can do it because he gets paid, but he's not unpaid consultant, isn't he? Oh shit. Foss. But I just want to touch upon a couple of things you mentioned there. First of all, the CMA did actually reiterate the fact that the UK, US, and European competition authorities are unanimous that the merger could potentially harm competition in cloud gaming. So there's that similarity between them. In terms of your point, Harry, I think that's a good question that you asked, because a lot of people, we don't have that information to hand. But there's this notion, whether right or wrong, I don't know. Is that how they quantified the 60 to 70%, foothold in the cloud gaming market that Microsoft's supposed to have control over. So this is being held as one of those points where, on procedural grounds, and we'll touch up quickly upon the cat's ability and jurisdiction to overturn things. But
because everyone's looking for that smoking gun, aren't they? Everyone on Twitter is like, this is the thing that they've done wrong. Look what the CMA did. They interpreted Game Pass subscriptions incorrectly as cloud subscriptions. But that's not how litigation works. It's not like a TV show where you go in and you go, look, you got this one thing wrong.
It is how it works if it's true, isn't it?
That process. Yeah, it's not an episode of Judge Judy. Like, this is a huge, this is the biggest merger in console gaming, well, in gaming history. And like, there isn't going to be a smoking gun where it's like, well, that one thing that reverses, like you say, the 400 pages of other information that we've got. And it's interesting that you say, like, Asa, you're going to roll your eyes when I say it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that the CMA, the FTC, and the EU Commission have all said there could be harm for the cloud network. But obviously, the EU, they've enacted a remedy that includes the UK anyway, because their remedy is a worldwide remedy. So you've got two things that, for me, they seem completely contradictory. Like, I'm with you, Asa. This has been going on for so long. I just want like a yes or a no. It's going to happen or it's not. And realistically, it's not going to affect me massively, because it's obvious that this is much to do about cloud gaming, less to do about console gaming.
And you definitely can't complete Diablo 4 in your 1 week window, can you?
No, that's the problem. Like, I'm not gonna. My backlog for next year is insane at the moment. I've got about 9,000 hours worth of games that I've got to play. But realistically, it looks as if, like you say, the EU and the CMA have come to different opinions of how to interpret lots of litigation. And one person on Twitter isn't going to change the mind of the CMA. Like, that's not going to happen. There's not going to be one tweet by someone who goes, well, actually, and then Rishi turns around and says, let's put it through. Like, that's, like you say, there's so much litigation that they have to go through. This is, unfortunately for you, Asa, this is just the start.
This is just the beginning, Asa. You're right, because this is actually increased the if the EC Commission didn't vote in favor, I do think the deal would have collapsed. I just don't think Microsoft would have had the appetite. Now they do, and the tone has changed. Tonally, the internal emails, the interview with Satya Nadella, and I think it was CNBC. There was a lot to read through there. I've got a video. I was supposed to release it out, but I had to sing a little medley as I do my videos. So it's coming tomorrow, hopefully, about this. And I also wanted to perhaps clip some bits here because, Luke, I needed you to kind of give us some information about what can happen. But this has bolstered Microsoft's position now. And this week we had China came out and also approved it, no conditions. I think it would have been absolutely ludicrous for China to actually impose itself, considering the fact that it gets to have its cake and eat it. It's been wandering around in this jurisdiction, or the Western jurisdiction, gobbling up studios, and then it prevents anyone from even dare to step it into China and do that. You can't do that.
As far as I'm aware, ABK games can't even be sold in China. Is that right? Like, there's a complete block that China have.
Yeah. They used NetEase for a while, didn't they? And who knows where it is now.
Yeah, Yeah, China. But China's done it. Like, they've approved it. So there's this meme going around, which is quite. I mean, let's be real. Most of the world has now approved it, apart from it's just the UK and the US. Two of the three big ones. Let's be real, as far as approval is required. But the pressure now, Microsoft's. I think the FTC has no teeth compared to the CMA. I think the UK regulatory body has, like, I can't. This may sound biased, and this old British panel, I'm going to get it from some Americans in the neck. But I mean, the FTC's posturing has been almost just like a drama. Like, I feel like Judge Judy versus the CMA had considerable. Like, we've had Sarah Cardell come in and have come on screen, on TV, and Parliament, and they fielded questions. And to be fair to them, I think they answered that really well, and they seem like they've done their due diligence. And on this cloud thing that I completely neglected, Asa didn't. I read those arguments. I said, fine, it's very speculative by its nature, but the CMA did a job of explaining to me what they were doing. With the FTC, I don't see anything. And the FTC's track record with Lena Khan heading it has been horrendous. Internal strife. It's been a whole shit show in there. So to me, I think the FTC, which has already announced that we don't care if we lose our cases, it's like, what the fuck is this? This is like a complete shit show compared to the CMA. At least they are maintaining some kind of
and without getting overtly political, obviously the B word that everyone in Britain is sick of hearing, Brexit happened, and one of the key benefits of Brexit was that we wanted this like I didn't, but people that were high up wanted this country to be like a tech hub for Europe. And so the CMA, they've actively dissuaded this massive transaction, and that sort of flies directly in the face of exactly what the government have been saying for the last 7 years of, we want big tech to come here. We want them to invest in our country. We want London to hold the monopoly of tech within Europe. And tech firms are going to Lisbon. That's a huge place at the moment that people are flooding to. A lot of money out of London is now going to Dubai. Like, a lot of big money is going out of the country that way. And so the CMA's decision, some people would say, oh, well, it's going to be reversed because people higher up want the UK to be this like tech, like glory land where everything is shiny and everything's perfect. But realistically, the CMA knew going into this that there are promises about the UK's future within the tech circle. And so for them to still go with the decision of, we don't think this should go ahead, I don't think that that's been made lightly. And for me, that bolsters the fact that this probably isn't going to get reversed in the UK. And it may be that cloud gaming is just cut out of the Xbox model within the UK. That could be the concession. That could be it. Because the big Brexit thing with tech companies is, come here and give us your money. So for the CMA to do this, like, they have to know that this is not a reversible course they can go down unless something very serious happens from upstairs. That must have been hanging over their heads.
See, yes and no, in my opinion. I'm guessing here. You touched upon two things, which I would like to get your thoughts on, Luke. One is the question of this kind of extra external pressure from the executive, the political posturing. It's been clear Rishi Sunak has come out and said that he's going to steer or help. They're going to introduce regulations and guidelines to stop regulate. Almost, I think, well, paraphrasing here, but they said that they're going to be the last resort regulators, that is, in terms of getting involved in that kind of stuff. He did say they were going to be a last resort. Now, how does that, even if at all, impact the CMA? I'll put forward, Luke, I think, and so, Sarah was being Parliament were not grilling her, but there's questioning going on there. She specifically mentioned the point about being aware of the economy and trying to enhance it and not do. Basically, they were aware of the considerations there. What Harry is suggesting, that they would have made that that decision, fully aware that they need to work in the favor of the country's interests. However, I just don't. You can't do that. This would send a signal to all big business, especially in the tech, because we all know Rishi and Co. and Parliament, and generally not forget the non-gamers, but people who are here in the UK worried about economy would be watching this. They don't want what the CMA have decided. I'd like to think. So what can external pressure do? How could you foresee, if you can foresee anything, this fluid, complicated, very tenuous situation that could impact the growth of this country? Are you saying this fixed legal process cannot be derogated from, and that's it, Microsoft potentially fucked? How, or do you see an angle?
I think if there is an angle, I don't see it. You can't look like this regulatory process is, as said before, is a legal process. It's enshrined in law. If you are subject to the jurisdiction of the CMA because of your merger, then that is the process. And there are levers in the acts that regulates merger control in the UK to try and at points have some sort of executive intervention, but they're extremely narrow. And I'm sure people have seen these, but there's a public interest intervention thing that you can do, that the business secretary can effectively do, but you can only do that at certain points in the process. It's basically before phase 1 or just after phase 1. If you want to take it to phase 2, the business secretary can intervene on a public interest ground. And there are things like national security and stability of the UK financial system, public health emergency. That was one that was introduced for COVID, for example. But we're past the time for that. So as far as the you know, that process, it doesn't apply. It's not applicable anymore. You do have the business secretary does appoint the heads of the CMA and the CMA board, and then the board appoint, kind of everybody beneath them and stuff. But it's not really, the whole point of the CMA is it's a non-ministerial government department. So it acts in the same way in law in terms of how the entity is constructed as something like Ofgem or Ofcom, right? These are independent regulators that are kind of, apart from very limited intervention, act independently from government. They're effectively an independent entity from government. Of course, there's a little bit of a dichotomy with that, because obviously, business secretary can appoint the head of the CMA and the board, etc. But apart from that, they can't intervene on a day-to-day basis in respect of a merger, apart from the one example I've just given you about special public interest mergers. So the pressure, I think the pressure isn't, to me, the way I interpret it is, I think people look at certain things and they go, oh, that's pressure on the CMA because of what they've done here, and that's pressure on the CMA because of what they've done here. But if you look at things like the strategic steer that that Sunak recently gave, it's been around since 2015. Every parliament, every government introduces one of those for the CMA to try and align the very broad policy of whatever the reigning government is at the time with the objectives of the CMA. And if you go and read the steer, it's so holistic, like it's so broad in what it's talking about. It's not specific at all. And one of the common steers, which is, I think it's like 0.6, it's in every one, it reiterates how independent the CMA are. So like when that came out, I didn't take that as any pressure at all. It just came out, and that came out, and the grilling in Parliament came out because of a wider context of what's going on at the minute in the UK, which is that a bill is passing through Parliament that will give the CMA greater enforcement powers, called the Digital Markets Bill. So where people see pressure, there is some indirect pressure with things like what Jeremy Hunt has said, for example, or when people specifically talk about this. But there's a difference between kind of, general looking at the CMA, looking at its function in this government, how it should operate, and then actually being able to do something about that, directly do something about that in respect of this merger. That's where the divergence is, and that's where people, I think, kind of get a bit excited, but there's nothing really to be excited about. So at least in my view. So
beyond just the steer, though, Rishi Sunak did say that he wanted to. His suggestion to me sounded like a very different, much significantly reduced involvement that he would like the regulators to have. He said that they would almost want them to be like a last resort to stop blocking them. Now, if what those measures are, I don't know. I don't think they've been suggested. Just a off comment. But if there are any regulations, or we are facing, imagine the UK economy is not, well, we're a pretty bad state compared to all the G7 countries. We're desperate to get foreign direct investment. We really want to get enhance that. These guidelines, if they did suggest, what could that even impact? Say they introduce new guidelines, could they even impact a case that's already being running through the motions? I've never come across that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen this particular quote from Rishi, so I'd have to have a look at it. But I mean, by the guidelines, do you mean the steer, the actual document, or just something Rishi said? Something Rishi said. I'll find it for you as well. I'll read it out. I think I found it actually. Whilst I read that out, just a couple of super chats. Space Doverkin and gents, if you want to touch on this with the $5 super chat, thank you, man. He goes, Gaz, one important fact: the CMA is not really untouchable. They just have an untouchable record. I don't think they have an untouchable record at all. They've actually been, other than merger cases, where they've had a pretty solid, I guess, no U-turns. That you've had compare the market case, where I thought the CAT strongly rebuked them. They said they're fundamentally flawed in their assessment of competition concerns. Were they not? Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, look, I mean, the CMA on some kind of regulator beyond reproach. You know, they're not infallible. And CAT have had cases where they've said, you know, you were wrong. The difficulty, I guess, is the way that CAT conduct their reviews in terms of merger cases is on a different standard to what it is under the Competition Act, which regulates a kind of separate competition thing. In the UK, it doesn't regulate mergers. And in that act, the Competition Act, that's where the CMA have had their kind of heaviest losses over things like fines they've imposed and stuff like that. So so they are not infallible. It's just that in a merger case, the legal standing and the ability of CAT to intervene is such a high threshold on a review basis that is itself extremely high in terms of threshold, that it's very difficult for CAT to do something that basically says, right, you got this merger completely wrong, either go and do it again, or here's an order telling you to do X. That's not how it works. We can talk about that in a bit as well. Sure. I think we will actually next. But this is the quote that Rishi Sunak suggested, which is, I mean, these are his words, so let me read them out. He says, we will reform the better regulation framework so that regulation is the last, not the first response of the government. This is game-changing in the way we approach British business now, as it ensures that regulation at the heart of government decisions is streamlined and forward-looking. Now, that word British business actually makes me think, well, I don't know if that's maybe just honing into it too much. Better regulation framework as well. That's defined.
Well, this is. So when did he say this quote, Gaz? When was it that he said this?
Just a week ago. This is the same time he made the steer comment.
Yeah. So part of the pressure that he is under, and again, this is a gaming podcast, not a politics podcast, is that there is pressure about red tape having been increased since Brexit, and so he is. He's under pressure to say, we don't want regulation. We don't want it. I did that Twitter video where I shredded all the EU laws. Don't worry, guys. Like we will make it very easy. That is just completely political gaming. Like he has to say that because obviously he's come off the back of a huge loss in the council elections, and people are then sort of like on his back about his record within Brexit. So
without I think it's a bit of posturing. Because if the UK economy is going down the shitter, you have to do something. I mean, look, forget gaming biases and all that stuff. You blocking Microsoft and its biggest endeavor is a warning shot to every other big tech business that wants to do business. That'd be scary for anyone like want to get into it. What would you do? Like at a certain point, you have to think that there has to be something to maintain this thing.
That's interesting there, though, guys, because you just said two like completely contrary points of view. You said that's scary for people that want to get into it, and that's not big business, is it? So on the one hand, like this is well beyond
but big
anything that I look into. But in terms of like overall impact on our economy and all the rest of it, like Microsoft is saying very threatening things, but the CMA's stance is to try and protect people that want to get into it. And that's the whole point of their verdict, is to keep competition open.
That's what they said to Parliament as well.
Yeah,
that's what Cardell's colleague said. Like, you know, businesses would look to a country that does regulate well as an inducement to do business. But I think you can't ignore the big players in this that will actually create jobs immediately and generate and foster that environment.
I think just to add to that, because I completely agree with Ace's point as well, but I think the comments by Microsoft around that about being the UK being closed for business, I'm not quite sure. I totally get why they said it. I completely understand the sentiment.
I would have told them to say that.
Yeah, I would absolutely. I'd be like, fill your boots, do that, because it's some external form of pressure, and if you get that message across in disseminated amongst people, who knows, might influence Cat when they think about it. Not that it should, but it might. But I think if you look at to me, like working in M&A and having been involved in like tech startup, private equity, all that sort of stuff, ignore big tech for a moment, because that's really important to the UK economy, but the tech sector is absolutely gigantic, and big tech is a very small proportion of that, right? So if you look at the things that companies, tech companies are interested in when they're thinking about what jurisdiction we should do business in, the things that they're concerned about are stuff like, what's the labor market like? Who can we hire? How skilled is the workforce for what we do? What's tax like? What's corporation tax like? Is it beneficial to us? What government subsidies might we get? Are there incentives for us setting up in this jurisdiction? How flexible is companies law? How easy is it to list? Those are the things they look at. What they don't look at is, what's the competition regulator like here? Because we're really planning to make some massive mergers or acquisitions in the near future. So I think I get Microsoft sentiment, but I think people need to be very careful about taking that and parroting it as if it's fact, because Microsoft will say and do many things in the course of this thing. I'm not saying they're inherently untrustworthy, but I'm saying they have, like any entity in this process, they have an agenda. So those are the things that companies look at. And actually, if you look at the work of the CMA, if you think about in any given year, let's just take the tech sector as an example. There are thousands upon thousands of mergers and or acquisitions in that sector, right? From small startups to big tech. The proportion of those that are even notifiable to the CMA, that even fall under the jurisdiction of the CMA is like that. And then the proportion of them that are actually reviewed and involve a blocking or some kind of similar structural divestiture or something like that is tiny. You're talking about single digits over the last few years. So I take that with that kind of sentiment with a bit of a grain of salt, to be honest. I mean, it's fair to disagree, but yeah, that's my view on it.
I can't conceptualize what the remedy would be, so I completely understand. I'm like, to me, it's an unavoidable thing because of the scale of it and tech. But when that you've explained, and one of the things that, and that's why you're here, the considerations of companies that do actually want to do business may not be what we think they are, and you highlighted really well the myriad of different
definitely
factors.
Want Call of Duty on Game Pass, and we know it. That's the deciding factor.
Well, like I said, they're all thinking about how to spend that $69 billion in cash that they all apparently have for a massive merger. I don't think there's nothing to Microsoft's statement, because I think it does send a message to big tech. But even then, it only sends a message to big tech in respect of acquisitions that they're making.
Yeah, if you want to do a $70 billion acquisition, then maybe don't do it this way.
Yeah,
and how many $70 billion acquisitions do we see?
Not even the scale of it. Like, that's a merger. There's quite a specific thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would be, there was it was kind of more scary, I guess, in a prior CMA case, which was the Meta Giphy case, which I think people have seen. I thought that would be a case where it would have more of a chilling effect, because
Can you
Giphy.
clarify? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're about to do that.
Because Giphy in that case had no UK presence whatsoever. They were they had no revenue in the UK. They had no employees. They had no headquarters, and they were caught under one of the two thresholds of the CMA's jurisdictional test as to whether they can look at the merger. So that one was a bit more worrying, because it was like, okay, you've got an entity here that Meta have acquired that has absolutely zero presence in the UK as a whole, yet the CMA is saying, no, we have jurisdiction to actually look at retrospectively at this acquisition you've made. But I think in going forward, like the CMA, as I've said, they can only look at certain things that fall into one of these two thresholds under the Enterprise Act, and if your merger doesn't, they can't look at it. So
I have a question. So assuming this all goes through, let's just say the FTC and European Commission and everybody else approves it, and the CMA are still there as the lone entity that's blocking this going through. You see a lot of people saying that Microsoft will just not offer cloud in the UK, or they'll set up a PLC that does business over there or whatever. But they still, the block is still in place even in that scenario, right? So what would Microsoft have to do to kind of engage a process where they're allowed to talk to the CMA again, and they can potentially get a form of merger or acquisition to go through?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's and it's also a really novel question, because nobody in history, I don't think, has thought about doing something like this at the stage that Microsoft are in, because it's a bit of a wacky suggestion. I've had to think about it. I think if you're talking about where they are in the process, as you say, the CMA have issued an interim order, which is a unilaterally legally binding order now of a regulator that's enshrined in law. So I think when people, I'll take it quite broadly, but when people talk about things like, Microsoft will just not offer ABK games and they'll get around it that way, the CMA have said there's no other remedy in this case that's good enough for us apart from prohibition, right? So they've kind of thought about the broader scale of this and said prohibition is the only way for us, agree or disagree, right, on that. And then they've made an order that says you can't acquire an interest in Activision at all, and vice versa, weirdly. So when people say, Microsoft could carve, let's just say ABK games out of the cloud as the first example, well, to do that, they need to own Activision Blizzard. So they can't do that because the order says they can't, and maybe we'll discuss about what that order means. And then when people say, maybe they'll just carve cloud out, again, what I would say to that is that's akin to something like a behavioral remedy, and it's Microsoft trying to regulate their conduct in the UK market. Right. It's also kind of structural in a way, I was
going to say, it sounds more structural.
It sounds more structural, but actually it's behavioral, because they're just saying, right, this thing in the market, we're just taking that out. We won't put it back in. That's what they're saying, because they have control over that ultimately. Yeah. So, so I don't think that works at all, because it's effectively Microsoft saying we're going to unilaterally implement a remedy to the SLC that you've identified, the substantial lessening of competition, but completely outside of the scope of the legal process that's happened, in contravention of an order of the CMA, effectively. So I just like the way that they'll engage on a particular remedy basis from now on is either if the CMA change their mind, which is very unlikely, very, very unlikely, and they revoke the order, but more likely it'll go to CAT, and if they get a favourable verdict from CAT, it might be basically, especially if it's remitted back to the CMA, the phase 2 part is opened back up again. So that kind of begins anew, not fully, but they'll try and remediate whatever the problems were. At that point, they can offer something like that remedy. And then maybe the CMA will go, yeah.
2, if that opens up, doesn't that also invite intervention potentially, or consultation from the executive that you suggested? Those are one of the
because it would be after it's already gone to phase 2, at that point. You can
okay.
only do
So
it after phase 1 or just before, basically before phase 1 or just
Okay.
after phase 1 before you go to phase 2.
Okay, so it's not
Diablo
actually
4's
going back.
not going to be on
Yeah.
Game Pass then.
It's unlikely. You should get it anyway though, because it's really good. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to, but damn it.
I mean, on that point, and thank you for clarifying that. It's really, really useful. And I hope, chat, that you're listening carefully as well, because I'm learning a lot as well. I would just say, I get the jurisdiction of the CMA and the determination there that you're essentially behaving like you're deciding these behavioral / structural remedies. But, this is a global affair where UK is one tiny island. The US starts to operate it. Like, what's actually stopping Microsoft? Think about it. Microsoft's like, we've got it in China, we're doing it here. You can't stop us in America. You can't stop us the rest of the world. And we're going to, other than fines being imposed, I just wonder what the CMA's jurisdiction is there. What will they physically do? What can they do? Like, what can Microsoft do? Like, you didn't give us an option. We've tried to cut. It's the only option that we have. But what's the other alternative? They swallow a fine? Or they get what?
Yeah. So your example is if Microsoft try and close over the CMA, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very, very unlikely, and the reason for that is, well, I try and think if I was advising Microsoft, would I advise them to do that? And I would say no, because I'm effectively advising them to break the law at that point.
Okay.
So there's a couple of reasons why it's really difficult to do that. So first, one is that they've got this interim order in place, which is, as I've said, it's binding by law. If you breach that, then the CMA, as you know, can fine you. It's up to 5% of the worldwide turnover of all the enterprises you control. So all the enterprises Microsoft control. So if Microsoft I think they made like $200 billion in revenue last year. So the fine could be a maximum of 10 billion, which is far more than the breakup fee that they have. But maybe they'd want to take that, right? I think the premise is so difficult because I find it hard to believe that Microsoft, as trying to build a reputation as someone who works with regulators, would break the law, basically. Yeah. But if they did, and bearing in mind, to do any of this, they would have to amend and restate, or you kind of bilaterally waive conditions in their merger agreement that they have, which says that we need the consent of the CMA to this deal, effectively.
Oh, yeah.
So Microsoft would have to, I guess, incur the fine, but more than that, the CMA have enforcement powers, so they can go to a court and basically do what the FTC do, or try and do, except the CMA have far more bite with it, which is to get an injunction. That could be prohibitive, right? Stop doing this, stop trying to close, or it could be mandatory, which if they already have closed, which would be, you need to divest immediately, or with us immediately, and that would take ages. But or you can't. One of the things they did with Meta and Giphy was they said you can't integrate your businesses until this entire process is finished. Like you can own them, but you can't do anything. And they can actually, the law is quite broad because it says they can seek any remedy they think, in terms of a court appeal, that they think would be acceptable or useful in the scenario. So I think it's just, it would be pretty scandalous to me if Microsoft did it. I'd be blown away. I'd be genuinely blown away, which is why I just never entertain it as an idea that would actually happen.
That's crazy. I just, to me, the scale of it for the UK to almost impose that decision that blocks the entirety of it, and it's strange to me. That means a sole jurisdiction could do that. I mean, the sole jurisdiction in this case is one that Microsoft identified. It was a necessity for the deal to go through, but
Yeah, and it's part and parcel of like, I don't have too much sympathy for Microsoft with it in that sense. It's part and parcel of operating in a jurisdiction, isn't it? Like, if you operate in a jurisdiction as a business, you are subject to the laws of that jurisdiction, even if you're you know, a global business headquartered in the US. So you know, like whenever you, and I've done merger applications before and helped with them, when you're like doing your analysis about, does this raise competition concerns, you're thinking about, you have to sit down and think about every single market in which you operate and go, actually, you know, this might be notifiable, we might have to do this here, like, and then you build out your merger agreement or your acquisition agreement from that, and you have relevant conditions in that. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just the thing that it is, you know.
So realistically, Microsoft is stuck basically between like a rock and a hard place, where they can't acquire Activision because the CMA have said they can't. And the reason the CMA have said they can't is because of the cloud concerns, obviously. But then they can't break the terms of the CMA agreement because they've said for this acquisition to go through, we have to get the approval of the CMA. So they're like,
because they operate in this.
So they're basically stuck between two impossible things, and neither of them have a remedy other than cat come in. And...
Well, it's the bit that I see this interesting is there's always this conversation and speculation about what they should offer as a remedy, and it's like it's too late, right? Essentially, they had a massive opportunity to talk to the CMA and offer these remedies, and they missed that window, and now they pretty much won't pick up the phone. So something has to happen. This is why I asked the question, like, what is Microsoft's option? No matter what they want to offer, no matter what they want to concede, they can say we're going to put all of these games on Amazon Luna for free. But the CMA aren't listening anymore, and something needs to happen. And this is like, how do they make that happen? How do they get a reverse on the decision or reopen the case at all?
I think it says it all that as soon
as the reopening of the case,
as soon as the EU made their statement to say we're passing this, CMA was straight in like, we're still not. Like, we still are not passing this. We are not going to buckle under the pressure of someone else passing this. That for me was like, yeah, there's nothing Microsoft can do at this point. That's the
CMA statement. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. This is what they said. They said Microsoft's proposal, accepted by the European Commission today, or whenever it was announced, would allow Microsoft to set the terms and conditions for this market for the next 10 years. They would replace a free, open, and competitive market with one subject to ongoing regulation of games Microsoft sells, the platforms to which it sells them, and the conditions of sale. Now, they did address the current deal, the proposals that the EC Commission, accepted. So there's some acknowledgement of those, and theoretically, on Ace, going from what Ace is suggesting, they are listening. The ears are open. They're aware of what the EC's done. Isn't it a bit weird, this abstract position where if the position fundamentally changes, like the offer is made, Luke, the CMA are completely prohibited from observing any new developments in the case, that the case could fundamentally morph? And can the cat also then entertain that, or are they limited by scope?
No, I mean, look, this is novel, right? This hasn't been done. So the answers to these are not easy answers.
I know.
So I wasn't having a go, by the way. I'm just saying. Like,
no, it's good, but it's very good to clarify that. People will take you for verbatim and said, he said this is definitely not going ahead. And I want to stress that point.
And I think that's why, I don't think anybody can say with any certainty, if Microsoft do X, then can Y happen, right? Which you see some people do, like, oh yeah, well, they could just do this. And it's like, well, it's not that simple. It's actually very extremely complicated and very novel. And there is no legal precedence for the things that are being suggested, mainly because they're quite bonkers. Right, because no company's ever entertained it, really. But I think, look, I mean, I think the problem is that I think if there was something fundamental, like Microsoft said, right, we're just going to not offer cloud services in the UK anymore, right, and they could get a hold of the CMA, such that the CMA were willing to talk to them about it, maybe the CMA would have a look at that and pull it back and pull their order away and say, actually, you know what, we've reconsidered and we're now going to update kind of a remedies working paper, which is what they did prior to phase 2, and go and then do kind of another phase 2 mini analysis and go, actually, this does satisfy the exact concern we've had. Maybe they do that. But I just, I can't see it.
See the appetite,
Can I ask a really important question for the inevitable follow-up across Twitter and all the rest of it? Luke, what is your experience in mergers and acquisitions? How are you qualified to talk about this?
He's got a Twitter account.
I've got a Twitter account. Yeah, that seems to be the threshold. So I have a law degree. I have a master's in corporate and commercial law. I'm a qualified M&A lawyer in the UK. M&A is what I do all the time. I've done competition cases. I have very good knowledge of UK mergers and acquisitions law, about the Enterprise Acts, because of what I do. Qualified for 5 years, trained for 2 before.
Sorry, it's not good enough.
Yeah, well, I know.
Yeah.
You own a PlayStation console.
With a lot of people on Twitter.
I'm listening to Frost Patterns instead of you. Fuck off.
I'll just leave. I'll leave now.
I've seen a few people in chat. Mention the fact that, well, Microsoft offered a 10-year concession for Call of Duty to PlayStation, and like that's their remedy. But the CMA never mentioned Sony. Like this isn't. It's not competition with Sony. They've
confirmed that's by the by.
So
now.
that's absolutely nothing. Like I've seen a few people bring it up. Like, well, they offered COD for 10 years. That's not the concern. The concern isn't Call of Duty not being on PlayStation, as much as Jim Ryan might think it is. Like that's not why this hasn't closed. It's a completely different reason. Like this is nothing to do with PlayStation and Sony. And as much
no,
as
it does
probably...
actually. You're wrong, Harry. Because after poor Luke has, in such detail and in such prose, and explained it in a way that I could never. That puts me to shame. I'm saying, like, why can't I explain Comprop in a way like Luke has explained mergers and acquisition to a case with 600 plus people watching? Do you know what? The chat, I see Red Monkey Butt says Luke is a pony. Luke is a pony. What the
look?
I have to say, on the whole thing. So I watched the parliamentary thing with Sarah Cardell, the head of the CMA. And she got a PlayStation controller and held it like this. So I knew that she's been spending too much time with Jim Ryan. I just like, I see it.
I also really wanted to just jump in, and I have receipts for this. You can go back and watch like older podcasts that I was on with Boom and other people. I've always wanted this merger to go through. So if there's any emotional place that and I don't have any emotional investment, like look at the way that I speak about these things. Do you think I honestly have an emotional investment? I've got a fucking life to not have, like I actually have a job and a life, right? And this is like super interesting to me because it's like, okay, what would I advise in the scenario?
Client,
what would that be? But I wanted this merger to go through because I'm a Game Pass subscriber. One, I really want to see Activision Blizzard King games on Game Pass, like that would be awesome. And two, I've always said I'd really like to see what Xbox would do with the studios that ABK have, and if they would give them a bit of a reign over something other than Call of Duty, that would be awesome.
Number three, Bobby Kotick. Everyone forgets that Bobby Kotick is still the big boy, and he needs to immediately not be part of the ABK.
Yeah,
that's for me.
There's a human element. Yeah, there's a human element to all of this.
Like Bobby Kotick is literally Satan, and I don't want him involved within ABK. And the sooner this deal goes through, the sooner Bobby Kotick can be removed from anything to do with video games.
Potentially,
people within ABK can unionize and can
potentially
fight for better wages and can fight for better working conditions, and female members of staff won't be harassed to the point of unfortunately taking their own lives.
Gaz's potentially then was like, allegedly. Potentially he's actually Satan.
No, I said potentially he will leave, because I think you never know. There's a situation where if in this weird world this deal goes through, which I still believe it will, because of this is unprecedented.
It is, and I think that's an important thing. This is unprecedented. So don't and I'm not going to big myself up. I do have qualifications. Like, I do know what I'm talking about with this stuff.
Doesn't matter.
However, you don't need to think, oh well, like he's being emotional about it or blah blah blah. Like, I'm just offering an opinion based on what I understand, and the qualifications. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be right about this, because it is really unprecedented. I'm just saying that I can't see them doing anything other than the course that I think they're on, which is going to appeal to Cat. They wouldn't have hired, Daniel Beard QC and Lord Panic on the Activision side, who are specialists in like appeal cases, in competition appeal cases, if they weren't planning to do the appeal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they've
spoken like a true pony.
Damn it. Oh, God.
Oh man, but I still think the deal will go through. I just think, and again, it's unprecedented. I keep saying I can't see big business being curtailed in this way. The way Microsoft is posturing, he's doing all the right moves. He's obviously gearing up for the appeal, hiring all these top people, QCs and whatnot, and at the same time applying pressure, apparently successfully, to the point where you've got these politicians blurting out things in the vein of this deal at a time where the economy is pretty sketchy. So I will maintain that position. Gaz been flip-flopping through this whole deal, says Childish Bambino. If you see me, I keep saying it will still go through, despite all the odds. How is that a flip-flop? It just means, well, okay, I take into account that the cloud concerns are, not spurious, but I still say it will go through, and you still call it flip-flop. Guys need to stop sucking or carry on sucking. Well, that sounds weird. That's a bit homophobic. Let me read these super chats. That wasn't the intention. Alvin with a $5 super chat. The entire world and their own governments are against the CMA. Solution: toss their offices in the Boston Harbor. Chuck them a few life rafts and let's move on. Poor Sarah Cardell. Alvin again, because also great show, panel and discussion. Thanks for the podcast. I thought you were serious there for a second, but thank you. El Greco, thank you so much for the NOK 50. He says, just supporting the show I like. And he did that with my personal channel as well. And thank you. That's very nice of you, man. Enigmatic Dreams, thank you for the $5 super chat. Microsoft should just pull Activision games from the UK if they want to be stupid. Let them. Are you Foss Patents? CMA wants to play politics. This is what they get. UK will be irrelevant. Thank you for the $5
CMA wants to
super
play
chat.
Politics. They're a government agency, right? That's pretty political as far as I'm concerned, right?
I mean, they're an independent regulatory authority. I don't think you can't divorce the politics too much from it, because they themselves, it is the economical considerations which Sarah Cardell did say to Parliament that they're aware of.
We'll sort it out, don't worry.
Yeah, we need to teams him after this to give him a good speaking to.
Next week's guest.
Everborn with the $5 super chat, guys. He goes, the CMA only fined Meta $70 million for closing the Giphy deal, so it's not guaranteed that the fine would be 5% global revenue.
No, it's. I'll just add to that. No, it's not. It's up to 5%. I think the only difference here is that the fine is meant to be. It's meant to. How do I put it?
It's a deterrent, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a deterrent for the action, proportionate to the action. In that case, Meta had already all of that deal was done, and then the CMA retrospectively came in and said, oh, actually, we think you should have notified that to us. We're going to investigate that now. And there were other issues relating to it. In this case, it would be probably, it would be a company doing the worst thing that they could do against the CMA, which is to ignore or to breach an order of the CMA. So whilst I don't know if it'd be, up to 5%, 10 billion, I think I put decent money on it being pretty high in the many billions.
I think you need to set an example.
CMA anyway, so.
Yeah.
Speaking of ponies, shout out to Face23 Brooklyn, New York. I'm just messing. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Microsoft offered European Commission the same remedies as the CMA. The European Commission also added the remedies that Microsoft needs to give out the licenses for free to consumers and other competing streaming services. Okay.
That's the one, like Luke said earlier, we don't have the text of what's been agreed with the EU, so it's difficult to know whether it expands beyond what we know about from the CMA or not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
They alluded to regulatory controls as well, and I don't know what those are. Those kind of checks and balances.
The EU alluded to there being an independent enforcer to make sure that Microsoft are sticking to this for the next 10 years, which Microsoft said that they had promised to the CMA as well. So,
yeah, it's a monitoring trustee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Percentage of the deal going through. Give us an accurate fixed percent. Luke, go. Value judgment time.
No.
You're like Asa. You two are like peas in a pod. Just won't do the nonsensible thing and just commit.
Just destroy it. Look,
I don't think it's going to go
30%.
30%.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Moment.
5 trillion done. That's the number. There you go.
The contrast is amazing. 30% to 5 trillion. You're just like me. It's like Asa and Luke are the sensible ones. Me and you are just a bunch of absolute mongheads. I love
Proudly,
it.
mate. I'll wear that. I'll wear that badge with honour.
My percentage will go up after I've had this conversation with Rishi after this to tell him to, get it sorted out. So.
Yeah, well, can we just look? I don't want to attack the chap, but obviously Foss Patterns, Florian Mueller came at you for saying we were saying that the CMA can. There's this popular suggestion that CAT can make a determination without the CMA's input. You came out and said this is not the case in merger cases because they can quash relevant elements of a decision on a judicial review basis, and that is so narrow. Illegality and procedural.
Yeah.
So, and he said, no, they can remand is not 100% required in 100% of all cases. To which I replied, can you give me an example? And then he blocked me. No, he did say, I don't remember where I read it, but it was a publication by a scholar or major law firm that said it was very rare for a UK court to make a final decision under judicial review standard. Very rare does not mean never. I'm like, is anyone fucking reading what this guy is saying? He's not, and then he's getting loads of likes. I'm like, oh, you didn't give me an example. You
that
said
screams
that, and then
of like, oh, my girlfriend goes to another school. You don't know her. Like, she exists. She definitely exists. She's definitely real. But she goes to another school. She's from Canada. You won't know who she is. But trust me, like when I say, I've definitely heard this from somewhere. It's just
where they said it doesn't mean never. Like, what the fuck? I wasn't trying to be combative. I was just like, I want the deal to go through just like you do, Luke. But I'm like, you're challenging this lawyer. I'm interested. You've been on Rand's show. What is he saying? And this is the man who's, if you're watching this, you had some pretty public outbursts. You didn't stop fucking tweeting after the CMA. You were wrong on that point. And then, just like we were all surprised, but you've been throwing your toys out the pram. You've been tracking Jim Ryan's plane. What the is going on? Luke.
Stalker.
Yeah. I think to some extent, like, we were talking over each other a bit and maybe referring to slightly different points. We kind of patched it up mostly in the end.
He blocked me, but yeah.
I think that was because you did an insult.
I wasn't an insult. Oh, maybe later. I was like, no, I didn't. That wasn't an insult. That was so calm. It wasn't timid.
It was pretty timid. But anyway, so I think what people mix up is, can CAT kind of substitute their own decision for the CMA's? And the answer to that is no, because that would be doing what they can't do, which is make a merits-based judgment of what the CMA have reviewed and then made a decision on. So they can't say, you know what, actually we've done all this process that you just done and we've come to a different conclusion, ergo that's the conclusion that there's going to be off you pop. There is some interpretation around whether they can take a decision that the CMA's made, review it, and then fail to remit it. I suppose technically that is possible, and they could do that. They could. There is a hypothetical scenario where they can make a remand almost pointless, in that they could quash on a, let's say, an irrational standard, the CMA's, I don't know, market definition or something like that, right? To make it so that it's almost pointless that it reverts back to the CMA, because if there's no, if there's no cloud market, then the CMA's decision about a cloud market is irrelevant, isn't it? And if there's only one theory of harm relating to a cloud market, well, the CMA have no basis on which to block a merger because there's no competition concern. So that's an example. But I don't want to spend too much time on it, because I think it's one of those. It's just one of those things. I think what I would say is that, like, just people just need to chill a bit with some stuff, like, and realize that people can have debates about it and can come from informed places. Some people can come from non-informed places. But just chill. It's going to be okay. Like, either way, life will go on.
That's the politest put down I've ever heard. Some people come from informal places. I love that. That's a really nice way of saying, stop talking absolute shit.
It's such a nice way of saying.
I only try and intervene when I think there's, like, something fundamentally, like, and the main reason I was coming in was about this idea of government intervention, right? Where that's the real problem area about this, and that's whenever there's something I think that's legally a bit that isn't really how it works. That's when I try and intervene. I don't try and intervene when someone says, "Oh, I don't agree with the CMA at all," because I get that, like, but that's fine. But
fair enough. Well, I think we've had enough. It's just been so bro. We've talked about this for ages, and it's been so interesting, and I've learned a lot. Still believe the deal will go through.
Asa must have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he really did. He just pissed off somewhere else. Well, we'll switch it up. That was really good chat, and I really appreciate that, Luke, especially. Harry, you're fucking brilliant. But it just just to summarize, this is a very fluid, unprecedented level of merger. Things can happen. 30% is not zero. So I guess Florian Mueller and Luke still do agree. Never, very rare. It doesn't mean never. Yeah. So I'm throwing your bone out there, Florian. Just like you, I'm sure. I still think the deal's going to go through. Don't ask me why. Now, we've talked about ABK. Let's go into some gaming, ladies and gentlemen. Can you imagine that? Mortal Kombat 1. Oh, shit. Poxy says you missed my earliest. I keep doing this, apparently. What the fuck is going on? I'm such a dick. Sorry about that. Oh, Space Novakin. Wait, no. That Space is... wait, Poxy. I'm scrolling up. Oh, shit. I've actually missed quite a few. Fucking copy and paste doesn't work. Sorry, apologies. This is running really well. Okay, Poxy, can you paste the super chat? I've got one from Antagonist 33. So why has the whole world said it's okay except the CMA? USA, we already know why. Brexit, F the UK. It's not only Microsoft noticing the UK is dead for business. I think we've talked about this, and they're an independent organization who made that determination, and they had a 400-page odd, rationale behind it. We may not agree, may not like it, and it is. Let's be honest. There's a cloud market. It's very conceptual, and a lot of it is crystal ball stuff. So
one thing I would say as well is that with the CMA ruling, how many people actually have sat down and read the full 400 pages, or how many people saw that first tweet and went, "Oh, for God's sake," and then they didn't even read the follow-ups? Like, there's a big proportion of people that just read headlines when you need to keep scrolling and you need to click the link.
There's a lot of people as well, just to add on to that just take, particularly on Twitter, a tweet at face value and don't investigate it. And it's usually some form of like confirmatory bias about a particular, the way they feel about it. That's whether you want the merger to go through or against it, by the way. So my point earlier was that don't, like, even if you're listening to me or Florian or Gaz or anybody on it, like, we're not the authority on it. So don't treat us as the authority.
Yeah,
honestly, don't.
Yeah,
treat Harry instead.
5 trillion.
Treat Harry instead. Oh wow, I just had a really bad case of vertigo there. Yeah, that was kind of scary. Space Doverkin, thank you with the $5 super chat. What if Microsoft really pushed for getting out of the UK? That obviously harms UK economy. Can CAT or the government step in and overrule the CMA? We've talked about this again, and the answer is no. But thank you. But you never know. It's like you said, it's a fluid situation. Something might happen, developments in law, or the CMA might somehow have an appetite to come and reignite some conversations. Poxy, super chat, guys, you missed it. My earlier super chat. I'm sorry. Can you just paste that? He said, I posted, Luke, does Amazon launching Luna to 15 million UK users change things? What do you say to that, Luke?
No, because the CMA considered Luna coming into the market in the report, so it doesn't. I don't think it makes any difference to them in respect of where the conclusion they arrived at.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, my head is spinning quite crazy. I think I need some water. But whilst I do that and die on screen live on GameOnDaily, that would be fucking hilarious. Well, I wouldn't.
Don't die.
I'll try not to. Just drooling on camera. Can you imagine how crazy that would be? God, please don't do that. Microsoft, Mortal Kombat 12 has been officially, well, not teased. We got the trailer, and have we seen this trailer? Am I the only person really hyped about this game? Don't say yes, Harry. Harry.
So no, I've watched it today. I spoke prior, Gat, like, I'm not into fighting games. They're not my jam. Never have been. Although saying that, Tekken 2 was the earliest game that I remember fully playing and like getting completely engrossed in. I gave the trailer a quick watch today, and then I instantly played it again. And then I played it again, and I was sat there like, I really, really need to get into fighting games because this looks sick. This looks absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Have you never played the Mortal Kombat story games?
I didn't even know there was a story to Mortal Kombat until yesterday. I had no idea. So I've got like a playlist set up on my YouTube for tomorrow evening where I'm going to do a deep dive into Mortal Kombat lore to like find that. I found like a 3-hour long playlist of like every single storyline.
I will help. Well, if you can, if you want, but I would suggest watch or play Mortal Kombat 11. You can see actually that someone's linked. I'll link it to you in DMs. The story, because this may be called Mortal Kombat 1, but really that's not the reboot. Mortal Kombat 11, the game before this, is the actual reboot. This actually carries the story forward directly from Mortal Kombat 11 without offering spoilers. It explains a lot. So watch. Didn't
Ed Boon debunk that? I might be misreading, taking something at face value. Maybe it didn't come from Ed Boon. I think I saw on Twitter someone say that Ed Boon had debunked that. So take it as like massive grain of salt because, you know, Twitter and people saying things, but he debunked it and said that it's not a continuation from 11, that they're re-establishing like relationships between characters and all those kind of things. Like this is a proper reboot and you should ignore everything before it.
I don't think so, because Liu Kang is the story's there. So without offering well, it's a whole game now, so I can say it. Liu Kang appearing the way he is, the powers there, that's directly the ending of Mortal Kombat 11. In that, and it's not spoiler territory, it's in a game. The next one's coming out. Liu Kang is the god in here. He literally says, you test the power of a god.
Good.
Raiden became part of him in the end of Mortal Kombat 11. They fuse together and he becomes a god. Who was never one until Raiden gave him that power after Kronika's battle. So it's direct. It's a direct.
The way that you're talking about it, Gaz, I find the way that you're talking about it interesting because I played I don't particularly like Mortal Kombat as a series, but I played, I think, 10, which is that the one where they introduced like the really good facial capture and animation and acting and all the rest of it and started really telling stories within this game. And I played it and enjoyed it for what it was. Was it 9 that started all that off? I played it, but I took it to be like, this is the 10th game in a long-running series, and the story is going to be like about as valuable as my left foot, which is not very valuable. It's quite valuable on the open market, but not as valuable as my right foot. And I was playing it thinking like, it's well done, they've done great capture, but the story is very throwaway to me and I'm going to ignore it. But you're talking like this is a story that compares with games that focus on story. Is it actually that good?
I think so. Obviously, it's in the vein of Mortal Kombat, but as far as fighters are concerned and stories in them, and I'm a big fan of Tekken stories, this is far and ahead above Street Fighter and Tekken. The story is actually really good, and I would recommend anyone new watching in this space. MKX's story was too crazy for me. I didn't like it after Mortal Kombat 9, but Mortal Kombat 11's story is great.
Really good.
It's like a reboot, tells the story like in a crazy way, and this is a continuation. Luke, did you play Mortal Kombat 11's story?
Yeah, I loved it. I'm not a big fighting fan at all, actually. Like generally, I wouldn't pick one up. But I played MK10 and loved that story, funnily enough. And I just thought it was so cool that a fighting game had like such a kind of long story campaign. It almost sounds like an anathema. It doesn't sound like it could exist, but it does. And then MK11 took it to a different level. So I'm really excited about this one, because I think what NetherRealm do with their fighting games is much more interesting to me than maybe a traditional fighter is.
I'm genuinely like interested that you say that, because I had absolutely no idea that there was like lore and story. Like, I just thought it's a bunch of characters, they all just beat each other up, they rip their spines out, and sometimes you see blood and stuff. I genuinely had no idea that there was like a narrative thread that was actually worth playing the game in order to like explore that, because I've never really played fighting games. Like, I think the last one I played was Killer Instinct on the Xbox One, and I just didn't get it. Like, and I used to play Smash Bros with my mates, but that doesn't really count, does it? But like, I never really understood the desire to get into those, because I'm very much someone who likes to play games with narratives. So to know that there's like a fully fleshed out story and campaign and narrative, I'm probably gonna jump on and have a look at getting Mortal Kombat 11.
Cutscenes are so good as well. They're so good. It's just basically like a cheesy Mortal Kombat movie, but done really well.
The new one exactly. Or the old one?
It's better than all of them. Better than both. The new one was atrocious. No, that's absolutely right. It's like how you would want the movies to play, but much longer. It's a very long story, and the way it's set up, you play multiple characters, so you don't have a choice of which character you pick. It'll tell a story of a character.
Oh, you don't?
Lead into. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All of this is like brand new information to me. So I'm gonna absolutely check that out. That sounds genuinely great.
Try and play it, because if you're gonna play Mortal Kombat 1, you'll get into the vibe of it and the move set, and then it won't be so jarring actually playing it as opposed to watching the cutscene and then going into MK1. It's really good. It's a fun game, and just the single player story thing should be copied by other fighters. I wish they did, because it really, I mean, to be honest, I played Mortal Kombat 9 mostly online and ranked and stuff, but whereas with MK11, I played actually on PC, and that means I wasn't intending to play it online. I just wanted to experience the story. That says a lot. This game's gonna be violent, and the cutscene was ridiculous, where he just chopped his face. You could hear him choking on his blood, but he has no body. It's just
what I loved about that trailer as well is that they kind of like, I love the way they started it, which was to be like super peaceful, almost completely not Mortal Kombat at all, and then sort of gradually kind of escalate like the madness of it all until you get to that end bit, which is just like, standard, even more over the top Mortal Kombat stuff. And it was really well done, I thought.
I was really unsettled at the start, but I'm like, why is this so peace? It's like,
Mortal Kombat.
I'm like,
they turned Mortal Kombat into an indie game. It's just like a side-scrolling action adventure. I'm like, just a nice peaceful platformer. That's all it is. It's just Celeste 2, basically, but every now and again you rip someone's spine out. I've got Mortal Kombat 11 literally downloading to my Xbox.
Oh, wicked! Enjoy. Nice. You'll enjoy it. I would love to get your thoughts on it.
I have a Mortal Kombat question though. Like, so you got the campaign, and that's delivered through like a story mode, but it also has this. I found horrible mode where you control a character in third person and you run around like some maze thing, unlocking all kind of crap like the crypt thing or whatever. Is that significant, or should I ignore that if I go and revisit this series?
Ignore it. I don't even remember that. Oh, it was fun for unlocks and stuff, but I guess.
And
but you don't
more
need to do
important
that.
question, like mechanically, is it a good fighting game?
So this is very subjective, and I think mechanically it is quite proficient compared to the Mortal Kombats of old. You're doing a disservice comparing it that and judging it on that. Now, would it be on your BlazBlues and your Tekkens and Soul Caliburs? I think so. I think it's improved quite a lot, and the fighting gaming circuit it has been pretty good. The only problem I would say, as an outsider looking in, because I'm not into that esports business anymore, or anymore. I was never into that, but not like a try-hard, sweaty person trying to be that. It just seems like the character balances were never on point where they could be taken, perhaps. Or maybe MK guys can tell me in chat, but taking that seriously. Also, the netcode has always been a bit shit. Even MK9 that I played so much of, this one uses a on netcode, which is very different. It's actually I forgot the name of it, not that you would care, but it's positive. So they've announced that they're using this type of a netcode, which is really good. It kind of, I don't know if
I do
anyone
care
cares.
about the name of the netcode, but like, can I play it with an analog stick and my face? And still win.
Yes.
Get through the story.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
I've seen a few people in chat say that like Mortal Kombat's more casual. Mortal Kombat's more casual compared to the Tekken. I'm not into fighting games at all, so the more casual, the better. That's absolutely fine for me. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, Black John, thank you so much. This Mortal Kombat has rollback. That's the netcode. Basically means that when you input something, there's no input delay. Is the easy way of saying it. But when someone inputs their buttons, the other person also inputs their buttons, and the game basically tries to predict the movement. And if it doesn't predict it accurately, once the inputs have reached, it'll try and adjust it. But basically what it means is you don't feel the latency locally. But
there was a huge issue a few years ago with I can't remember which Street Fighter it was, but a Street Fighter came out and the netcode was just so horrendous that it rendered it rendered the multiplayer basically unplayable to the point where people just completely dropped the game.
At day one, it did. Killer Instinct to this day, like we said the other week, incredible netcode. Might have been rollback, or could be Azure as a result of the magic. But yeah, Mortal Kombat, we are going to see it most likely next week. But this year, we're getting Tekken, we're getting Mortal Kombat, and we're getting Street Fighter in the same year. You lucky me lucky shits. Because
Does that put the pressure on Microsoft then to get Killer Instinct back? Because I know that it's something that a lot of people talk about, is they want to see Killer Instinct back. Like, if fighting games are having this resurgence, if they're having this big resurgence and there's a lot of hype, and you watch the trailer to Mortal Kombat and it makes people go, oh, I've never tried a fighting game before and that's what I want to do, surely Microsoft have to look at that and think, we need to work on this hype that everyone else is building and then release something that is actually...
Conversely, though, Microsoft say we've got 3 fighting games coming to our platform this year, so maybe we should make something else.
Money hat. No. There's a movement. Microsoft needs to. I think this whole Redfall angle and everything, just public discourse around it, has put a negative spin on it. There's been a movement, a positive movement to bring Redfall back. There's like a hashtag, whatever, Redfall, what it's called. I think Microsoft would be stupid not to even consider a fighting game genre in its staple as first party.
Didn't think Redfall was a fighting game. Bring back Redfall.
Huh?
You said bring back Redfall.
Yeah.
Bring back.
Are you okay, guys? Is the vertigo still got you? Do you need a rest?
Please do not bring Redfall back.
No, I think I'm okay.
I am ready for Redfall remastered.
I know they have a lot of remasters, but I'd rather get 100 remasters of competent games than another Redfall. Jesus Christ. that game. I don't want
Did
to
you
talk
play
about
that?
Redfall.
Oh yeah,
Redfall?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
unplayable.
I followed your tweets on it. It was really entertaining.
An NPC just fucking vanished, and I couldn't talk to the bastard, so I couldn't do anything. Just literally couldn't do anything. And I've got knobheads on Twitter going, "Well, you're obviously not playing it properly." Mate, here's a screenshot of me. I can't talk to the NPC. He doesn't exist. I can't progress. I'm locked out of this wank piece of shit game that load in 240p textures for 5 minutes, and the fucking NPC's not there. And then when they are there, you sneak up behind them, you punch them once, and they go, ugh, and they fall through you, like you don't even exist. And then they look at you and they shoot the floor, and then the vampires don't move. Brilliant. What a great game that was. So yeah, I did play Redfall. I'd give it maybe like an 8 out of 10, maybe. It was all right. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Nothing salvageable about that game. Like, what was it? The Last of Us on PC port came out, and it was utterly broken beyond belief. But then they fixed that, and then you've still got like a good game at its core that you can play. If you fix the technical issues with Redfall, it's still shit.
Yeah.
It's still absolutely terrible. And I remember your tweet coming out, and it was like, I'm changing my Metacritic prediction. And I was like, he's played it. He has definitely fucking played that game. He knows what is coming. He absolutely knows what's coming.
That's the way not to break an NDA. On. Not that I even signed one. I was just like,
I have a suspicion.
I managed to play it.
And I was like, the game's fucking broken. It's done. It's absolutely dead on arrival. And
someone was saying to me, I changed my narrative after the reviews came out. You idiot! My video came out when the embargo lifted. You dick! And I told you before everyone. Like I said, my Metacritic was 63. Why are people so stupid? Go on YouTube. Go check the time. Go on my tweet.
It's a curse that we have. We have this curse where we're always right about everything that we always say. And
it's true.
I was saying for months prior to Redfall coming out, I was like, this game just doesn't look good. Like, I don't get it.
I thought it was good. I made a video on this channel saying it could be something special because they sold me a bill of lies.
I was super looking forward to it. I thought it looked good. I mean, there was that IGN video, but you know, like
we owe that bloke an apology.
I think we actually do.
I put his video.
I think we do.
Was like,
to be honest, he didn't play shit anyway. He wasn't watching the screen.
He didn't play shit.
Now we know
the game's shit.
Yeah, I think
the reason he had the sniper. The reason he had the sniper rifle indoors is because there's no fucking gun wheel, and he had to scroll through them, and he was panicking.
Yeah,
but
and
I
also
didn't enjoy it.
On a controller, it does not, like, I played it on PC, but I briefly played it on controller. It feels even not even ignore the 30 FPS thing. It just feels not good to play. It's very sticky.
Like, the 30 frames thing, it annoyed me when they announced it, but then when I played it, it actually felt quite smooth, and it didn't bother me as much as I thought it did. What bothered me is that when I got to that opening bit and the vampire's there, and he's sucking the blood, and then I walked downstairs into the bottom of the boat, and I was met with unrendered cars and an unrendered floor, and AI looking at me from like here to maybe the wall away behind me, doing nothing, and then shooting the ground while I just slowly walked away. I remember at one point I had to get like a popcorn machine because that's going to help in a vampire.
I saw that.
Get some fucking popcorn. And I remember walking from the hub. Game. I walked from the hub to the theatre and didn't encounter a single enemy, not one. And I entered the theatre, punched one bloke in the back of the head, took the popcorn machine, and fast traveled back to the hub. And that was the mission. 8.5 out of 10. Wicked. Great game. Absolutely incredible game. World changing. Just.
Oh man, you're killing me, man.
The NPCs are stupid because people in cults are stupid. So it makes sense if you look at it from a lore perspective. What? Yes, CWU. I am offended by this game. It offends me.
It does as me as well. And the fact that it got released. Antagonist for the $2 super chat. You're the best, guys. Thank you so much for that super chat, man. Well, okay. Well, a showcase is coming, and I'm pretty confident that this company isn't going to have a shit show because, as much as a biased Xbox guy that I am, I know for a fact PlayStation would have never released Redfall, and I am a lot more confident in their showcase, which is coming out this Wednesday. I'm not saying that Xbox is going to have a shit showcase. We'll talk about what Xbox need to do and the pressure they're facing, but PlayStation, after sat in absent, completely disappearing for like 2 years, since 2021, or November or September 2021, they haven't had a showcase, and now they're having one. And after all the begging, everyone is hyped. I did a poll on Twitter, and your Xbox is gonna be obviously, but yeah, I know, fine, it's me. I can't escape who I am. But I did a poll, and 11,000 something, 346 people voted, and it's as close as you can get. It was at 50% for ages. Who will have a better showcase, Xbox or PlayStation? Then it went up to the PlayStation side because the ponies were retweeting it as well. I don't think I didn't notice. So the PlayStation guys latched onto it, and then the Xbox guys, yeah, they were all. I didn't expect this kind of response to my poll. It was just like, yeah, I get it. It's me. I'm doing this poll. But it's settled at 51% in favor of Xbox and 49% in favor of PlayStation. That's freaking narrow as fuck. And do you know what that means? It means Xbox guys, in my opinion, are more confident in Sony's showcase than their own. Yeah,
100% I am. Yep.
Yeah, you, me, a lot of other people. Look, let's have a little bit of context to that. Well, actually, you know what? Yes, guests talk about it. Luke, come on, man. This is a big moment. Of course, I'm going to weaponize this console antagonism, but this is what we live for. We haven't got E3. We've got Sony, who have come out and didn't need to go 2 weeks before Xbox, and they did it. So fucking these guys aren't competition. We'll just go and destroy them 2 weeks in advance and watch Phil Spencer's apology talk. Okay, it's not that bad, but talk to me. What do you think about this? Is PlayStation confident? Are you expecting greatness?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I think what I will say is I think it's very possible for both shows to be very good. And I think everybody should root for both shows, like irrespective of what platforms you have. That's the lawyer in me speaking.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Don't quote me. I think the Sony one is really exciting, just because we've not, as you said, we've not had one for 2 years. We've had just state of plays and stuff, and in that time they've released a good bunch of games, obviously. But I think maybe there's I wouldn't say, because people talk about pressure a lot in all of these things, and I don't think there's like actual pressure, but I think maybe Sony have a little bit of pressure as well, because they haven't had a big reveal of their slate of first party games for 2 years. So it needs to be a good showcase, because it, as I think Jeff Grubb said, it's kind of meant to set up the next phase of the PlayStation 5. So I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, there's so many things that could be there, and I think that's the exciting thing about it, is we don't quite know what's going to be there and what's not, and there could be a lot of big surprises.
I've got a couple of guesses.
Yeah,
I
Spider-Man
reckon that there will be quite a few AAA third-person, over-the-shoulder action-adventure games.
This is very possible.
Then there might be some comic book superhero games, and then there'll be some live service games, I think, maybe. No, I'm unapologetically not a PlayStation player, because it's just an economy sort of thing I've never got into. All my friends had 360s. I bought 360. All my mates had Xbox Ones. I bought the Xbox One. Xbox All Access was just the absolute best deal. And I got it day one, like the console and Game Pass, for like 25 quid a month. Yeah. It was just like, I convinced my missus, because I negotiated a better contract, and it worked out that going All Access would save me like £8 a month. And I was like, I have to do it, see, because I'll save us money. But
that's 2 Tesco meal deals now.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Big stuff.
Yeah. And I'm genuinely looking forward to the PlayStation showcase. And I've said this to you guys, like, privately, in DMs and stuff, is like, more and more I think, like, I don't need an Xbox anymore. I could just be a PC player. But the PS5 has its hooks, and like I've seen a few offers on them, and I've seen a few like deals, especially like I'm with EE in the UK, and they're always like, hey, for £25 a month, you could get a PS5 with us, and you could get this, and I keep looking at it, I'm thinking like, it's very enticing. Like I know everyone always says Destruction All Stars. Shut up. Like that's a one-off terrible game. I get it. Sony have released some of, if not the best first-party AAA games ever made, ever. I know that Xbox have had some absolute bangers, but Sony consistently know what their players are after, and they deliver almost every time. They deliver exactly what that person is after. So if you really, really liked Horizon, you're going to love the new one. If you really, really liked God of War, man, you're going to love the new one. If you like Spider-Man, you are going to like the new Spider-Man game. And like for me, I absolutely love Halo. I didn't like Infinite very much.
Yeah.
Like my Twitter was very, I was like, unapologetically, I won't.
Get that sriracha out quick.
Yeah. But so Sony have Forspoken's not first party, whoever's saying that in the chat. But Sony have a very good way, and you may not like the style and structure of their games, but they know what points to hit. They know people who like this type of game will buy our console and will make that game the best it can possibly be. And watch Spider-Man 2 come out, full 60 frames, 120, 4K. It's going to look absolutely stunning, and it's going to be just, if you like
overrated.
The first one, if you like the first one, you like Miles Morales, man, you're going to love the new one. And it's an ecosystem that more and more I feel like I should really end up getting a PS5, because those games do look quite good. And I'm sat here with my Series X.
The games look good, or is it because Xbox is shitting the bed recently?
It's a bit of both. So like we've spoken about this, like I less and less have a reason to like big up my Series X, because really the showcase games that I can show people are Forza Horizon 5, which is incredible. It's a beautiful game, but it's not a next-gen only title. And Microsoft Flight Simulator, which some people even argue isn't a game. It is a game, but some people say like it's not a game, it's a simulator. Those are really the only two that sort of show off this is, and it's Xbox's exact words, the most powerful console ever made. Like, what do I really have to show for it? And then I look at screenshots and I look at videos of Horizon, and it looks utterly incredible. And I'm thinking, like, where's Xbox's answer to that?
What a soulless, pretty game. I know I'm not a fan of Horizon personally.
I've played a little bit of it, and like the first one didn't drag me in at all, because like open world games just don't do it for me. But I don't have like that showpiece game that I can go to and be like, this is the reason that you need to buy an Xbox, because maybe Forza Horizon 5, maybe Motorsport when that comes out. I'm so hyped for Motorsport. Maybe when that comes out, possibly Starfield, although it's a Bethesda game, so it's a Bethesda game. It's going to launch and it's going to be an absolute mess, but they can get away with it. They've got the sort of like the chops that they can get away with that. But I think that this Sony showcase, they're going to push on the fact that Xbox have struggled a bit over the last 18 months. And I think they're going to do the like passing over the game. This is how you share games on PlayStation. I think that they're going to just do an absolute
double down on it. There was some rumor mill suggesting that Jim Ryan said that he's going to double down. This is it. We're going to go all the balls to the wall. I will say, because Sony has sat out for like so long, they need to deliver a great show. It's not
100%.
like because you don't get the benefit of being absent and then delivering a lukewarm show. I don't think they will release a lukewarm show. But Acer, what are you expecting? Are you expecting some majesty from PlayStation? Because I am fully expecting them to molest Xbox this time.
So,
that's the wrong word.
Like Luke said, I'm fully expecting both showcases to be really damn good. They're both like Microsoft and Xbox have been really quiet for like 2 years, or pretty much since the ABK stuff started off. They've both kept their cards close to their chest. Calm down, you two. In terms of Sony, yeah, I'm expecting a banging showcase, but you know that VR is a thing that I personally love an awful lot. So the main thing that I actually want from Sony is not just a really good VR showcase. Like people talk about Half-Life Alyx and things like that, and I'd love to see all of that kind of stuff there and the big games. But I'm really hoping that Sony kind of evidence their long-term strategy for that device. So all of the talk of hybrid development, I want to see some of their major announcements for the PlayStation 5 to say also PlayStation VR 2 in its entirety. So that we know that actually you're taking this seriously for a long time to come. Because obviously Jim Ryan's done this interview during the week with Famitsu, and he said various things that we'll probably like dig into a little bit. But this is me personally. I love playing virtual reality games, so I want to see them. In terms of Sony's AAA slate, like Harry said, you know what you're going to get. They know what they're doing. They know how to build those, and they're bound to have some good ones. And sure, they'll be reasonably excited. I didn't particularly like God of War Ragnarok, by the way. In terms of your like their sequels are certainties. Parts of it were brilliant and parts of it were underwhelming, but I do actually like Horizon a lot. In terms of what Sony deliver, like I'm all eyes on the VR. I can't help it.
That's good.
I know that's not the answer.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Everyone is thinking, like I'm thinking, like the VR is going to be the weaker part of it. They might show something really good. Half-Life Alyx will be a big announcement if that has support for it. But unless they, and I want it to be good on the VR front, I'm just thinking that might be the weaker part. But there's a super chat. Sorry.
Go on, let's take super chat.
Super chat for Randall Thor, you piece of shit, with a $10 super chat. Goes, what's up, MB Gaz? How you doing, bro? He blocked me today, so I guess I can take his place. Alvin with a $5 super chat. Ghost 2 confirmed that Ghost 2 confirmed not being there is a bummer. If Bloodborne is also a no-show, then it's not looking good for me personally. Hoping for the best though. Alvin, you're right though, and see, because David Jaffe is saying, well, maybe not David Jaffe, Jeff Grubb. I always confuse the two. Jeff Grubb is saying that he's hearing that Sucker Punch aren't going to be there, or Ghost is not going to be there. Bloodborne is expected to be there, and that from Blue Point. A remake being announced is a big deal. So yeah, I'm with you there, Alvin. Those two don't make it, it's going to be like, But Asa, sorry.
I think I was going to say is Sony, like, obviously they've been quiet for a while. We know they've got a relatively quiet year this year in terms of their first party releases. But one thing that they've always done when they were at showcases, when they used to go to E3 and things like that, is they were always very willing to promise like quite far into the future, too far into the future for my personal taste. But Wolverine, in terms of what Sony have to show, well, Wolverine's a good example. Like, we're doing this; it's freaking ages away. And we said before, like, I understand why they do that. You need to get these announcements out before it's leaked through job listings or whatever else it may be. But they've always promised really far into the future, which means in terms of what they've got to draw on for a showcase, like, I expect it to be a lot, and I expect it to be a good one. Whether that stuff is coming out anytime soon is a whole nother question.
Yeah,
very good question. What do you expect, Luke? What would they show that would blow your socks off?
I mean, I think it's somewhat unrealistic, but I think if I could pick something that I really would like them to show, it would be whatever Santa Monica's next game is, right? Whatever Corey Barlog's doing. For me, that's the most... Well, actually, I tell a lie. What I really want is about 45 minutes of Death Stranding 2 footage and Kojima just talking about that game.
All one cutscene.
And then the rest of the 15, I don't care much about, because Death Stranding, I love I love Kojima games, so it doesn't matter what Kojima makes, right? I just love it. Yeah. So if I could have 45 minutes of Death Stranding 2, in fact, it doesn't have to be gameplay. It can be him and like Norman Reedus just having a chat. That would be great.
Just Norman Reedus chugging Monster.
Yeah, just chugging Monster. Yeah, and
the baby in his hand.
Kojima's eating a sandwich. It would be fantastic. I'd love it. But yeah, I guess like Santa Monica's next game, that would be big. If the Metal Gear rumors are correct, I would be really excited. Again, a Kojima game, albeit he's not remaking it. Whatever Blue Point are doing, because I just think they're super talented, like incredibly talented studio. And they've said for this one, it's their first game with original content. They stopped a little short of saying it was a brand new game, something they're building from scratch in terms of whatever the underlying base of it is. But I think that's quite exciting. And yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I think this, like I said, it's really difficult kind of conceptualize a lot of this stuff, because there is so much that could be there that we just don't know about. That's completely unexpected. One of those things, a bit like Hi-Fi Rush earlier in the year, which just came out of nowhere, right? And it was like so surprising, and then such an incredible game. So I'd like, it doesn't have to be a shadow drop, but something like that where it's like a big unexpected announcement. That's kind of what I really like.
That kind of unexpected, well, Death Stranding. So Cole, yesterday I was on Cole Eastwood was calling me. He goes, you might actually like Death Stranding, because he said there are some bits in it, you like, once you go through a certain period, it's just beautiful. Like you know, it's like a very creative experience. So I'm actually gonna, once I go through my backlog, and play that on PlayStation, because
it's on
Cole
PC
Eastwood
Game
told me.
Pass, isn't it? It's on PC.
Yeah, but I don't play on
Pass,
PC.
It is on PC Game Pass now, but
yeah. Oh, is it PC Game Pass? I think I've already got it anyway on PlayStation, so I will play it. I heard Colt Eastwood in chat goes, it's dank. But Chapter 3 becomes tiring chore for a while. Yeah, there's that pacing issue.
Yeah,
I think the pacing issues are a PlayStation problem. Asa, I haven't gone back to God of War Ragnarok because after picking fruit, whatever, and then after that I kind of stopped, which is crazy for me because God of War 2018, I finished in like a few sittings. I was mesmerized by that game. I haven't gone back to God of War Ragnarok for months, so I do need to go back on it. But there's something there that to be said about that. You might say, Gaz, you're being a pony Xbox, but it's like...
it's funny that you say that. Obviously, Duncan, who used to do Gamers Watch before, like Gamers Watch isn't a thing anymore. We just don't have the time in the day to do it. That's why I'm off talking about UFOs and ghosts and stuff in my spare time now. But yeah, Duncan and me work together. So we were on Teams just the other day, and he was like, I finally finished Ragnarok. He said it was 18 hours of trudgery for 3 of the best hours of a game he's ever played. That was his response. But he loved the previous entry into the series. Like you just said, he could not put it down. It was like he played it absolutely from start to finish and got everything that he possibly could out of that game. And he said that, Ragnarok, he just felt it was very, very chore-like, and you had to, like, every 10 minutes you're being told exactly what to do and where to go, and he just wished the game sort of shut up and let him explore a bit more. But he did say he had like some of the best experiences in AAA gaming, completely sandwiched with some pretty not great pacing and just a bit of averageness. But he did say that the because he didn't want to spoil it for me, he did say the brilliance of it makes up for the sort of averageness of it. So
I'll also not spoil it. I found the combat, it's like really fantastic melee combat, loads of like beautiful places to visit and explore. Really good things about it. The pacing is crap, and what he described as the best 3 hours, I would describe as massively underwhelming. So difference of opinion there, but I didn't think it delivered as like, and this is again very much talking around spoilers, but I was massively underwhelmed by the direction that it eventually took when it built towards its grand climax.
Everyone cites the grand climax as something that really kind of elevates the experience, but I'll try, I guess. I'm quite intrigued.
But
it looks great and it feels great. Mm-hmm. You loved it.
Yeah. I loved it. I mean, I loved the 2018 as well. I loved the primary first 3 console games as well. I'm just a big fan of the series. But I do, there's, without spoiling things, like there are pacing issues in that game. I still think it's an incredible game. But there's I don't really think it's that much of a spoiler, but the Ironwood section is way too long. Like, it really kills a lot of the early game momentum.
I think that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah, so I won't go into what you do in that bit or anything like that.
That's right.
That bit is, pacing wise, it just goes on for too long, and I think some people never recovered from that bit. Like, in terms of it sticks in your mind a lot. So yeah.
I'm not even seeing much natural from the PlayStation side hype or acclaim for God of War Ragnarok like 2018. I get it. That was a moment that feel like it's a bit of a muted experience. So PlayStation, sometimes I think is the formula getting stale a bit? Critically, it's doing well. It's selling a lot, but I don't know. But this showcase, we're going to get Last of Us factions. That could be the surprise drop that you were alluding to, kind of that could shock people. That could potentially happen.
I don't think that the formula. I don't think that the Sony's formula is getting old. What I think that they need is they just need a more diverse portfolio of other games.
That's true.
That's what they need, because the formula that they have clearly works and they make great games, but then they just don't have those other games that can. So if you don't want an over-the-shoulder third-party action adventure game where there's some daddy issues involved, they don't really have that game to sort of like fill that little gap. I think Returnal did a great job of
Returnal.
That was unlike,
an incredible game.
that was unlike anything that they had done before, and they need more of those. And that's what Hi-Fi Rush is for me this year. Hi-Fi Rush is alongside Dredge, which has an hour-long demo on Xbox right now. So anyone watching this who wants to play the best indie game of the year, go and play Dredge for an hour. But Hi-Fi Rush for me came out and was unlike anything Xbox have done really since Sunset Overdrive, and it absolutely blew me away. And I think that Sony just need to take a few more risks.
I mean, they have VR. That's a big risk.
It is a big risk. It is a huge
They've got platformers as well.
Yeah,
got
there's stuff like Twisted Metal, which has been heavily rumored, right? You know, it's a different type of game that they're trying to make.
If Twisted Metal came out, if they were like, here's a new Twisted Metal, it comes out in 6 months' time.
Might come out.
That game. That's the game to fill in that niche and that void that they're missing. It's completely against their conventional style of games that they make that would blow everyone out of the water. And if they do a Metal Gear Solid, if they do a Metal Gear Solid remake, I'm buying a PS5 that same day. Like that's just happening, unfortunately.
I think Twisted Metal will be live service as well. I think the rumor mill I think has some substance. I was talking to Rand about this. So Twisted Metal, he informed me that could be making a comeback. Then you've got multiplayer, which they've been typically not as strong as Microsoft with, although Microsoft's multiplayer offering is obviously, we'll talk about the Xbox Showcase potentially. But you've got multiplayer, you've got Twisted Metal with live service potentially, and it's a vehicular car combat game. You've got Death Stranding 2. I think it's quite a pretty strong chance of that being shown off. Let's be real. I think I was talking to Rand about this. Rand is like, well, hold on, because I said to him, like, expect a lot of logo reveals as well. And he's like, well, hey, hold on. If Xbox did that, you'd shit on them. Yes, unless Xbox showcased all the gameplay as well. If they did that, then you can throw we'll talk about the Xbox bit in a bit.
I think there's a balance, isn't there? Like, it has to be a balance of it. Like, you know, if Nintendo show off a logo for Metro Prime 4, right, as a Metro Prime fan, that's like hugely exciting, but it's sandwiched in between a lot of gameplay, a lot of more substantive reveals, and you're like, that's great. At the last showcase PlayStation did, for example, they started off with what was essentially a logo reveal, which was the Knights of the Old Republic remake, which I was super excited. Like, that's a super exciting announcement, but they had a lot of substance in there as well. So it just depends on the balance of it. Like, that you can go one way or another in terms of directionality, but if you do, it tends to be a crappy showcase.
Xbox did the same thing. They released the logo for Contraband, and then we've heard literally nothing about that game since. Really,
it's Fable, Perfect Dark. You know, they did those. I mean, Perfect Dark wasn't a thing. Yeah. So it's just it would be a good time to see those games again. Really.
Yeah. So Xbox has struggled. So with PlayStation, if you were thinking of a strong showcase, you're thinking of Last of Us Factions, you're thinking of Twisted Metal Black, you're thinking of Wolverine. If Wolverine gets a gameplay footage, it can't be with CGI. Actually, Wolverine could potentially get away with CGI. Do you know how? If they reinforce the maturity of it, if they show a bunch of violence and limbs cut off, even in CGI form, a lot of people, it will answer a lot of people's, how violent will this be? Because it needs to be violent. So in that sense, I can see Wolverine getting away with it, but it really should show gameplay. Spider-Man, that's a big one that's coming out in 2 months. So it's obviously going to see that. These are already strong. Bloodborne remake will just set so many people off that it's going to be incredible. So you've already got a strong show.
And that's without your third parties and your indies and your PSVR.
Yeah, exactly. So the third parties, if money hunting things are true, and that's where you can expect to see some logo splash screens. Metal Gear Solid, and you bring that right at the end. Boom, Metal Gear Solid 5, A6, whatever you call it. It's just like, oh shit, it's coming back. Launch
Or they
exclusive.
just walk
Yeah.
David Hayter out onto the screen, and he just is like, "I'm back," and then that's it. And then
they
showcase
shoot him.
cuts off.
Bam, Konami.
Yeah. Snake. I've got a very quick story about Metal Gear Solid. So it was the first game that I ever played on PS1, and my mum, I was from a single parent house, and my mum played it because I couldn't, because it wasn't in my age group, and she got so addicted to that game that this is so stupid. I remember walking down the high street in town, and I turned around and my mum had her back up against the wall and she was knocking it to see if it was hollow so she could see if C4 could be planted there. And I looked at her and I was like, "Mum, what are you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And she had no idea what she was doing. And she was knocking on a wall to see if it had C4 being planted.
She didn't have C4 on her, did she?
No, she had it confiscated. But she literally was so addicted to that game. And then when Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, I was old enough to play it. So we had this like great experience of both playing it and then having that awkward moment where like Raiden is running around with his arse out in a corridor. And we're both looking at each other like, oh, this is happening right now. And like I've got so many like core memories of Metal Gear Solid growing up that if they have anything Metal Gear Solid related at this showcase, I'm in day one. Like new console is ordered, I'm there. I'm getting in a box and hiding outside the local game. Like that's happening.
Why is it that your first PlayStation 1 game was like one of the greatest games ever made and mine was fucking Hercules, like the Disney? And I thought it was just like the absolute bee's knees when I played it. And looking back, I was like, that was shot. It was shit.
I remember playing FIFA 97 Road to the World Cup on an N64 and thinking graphics will never be better than this. Paul Scholes is ginger in real life, and he's got ginger hair in the game. That's done. Like we can't get better than this.
I was thinking the same thing with Gran Turismo 1. It was so silly how I remember saying to my brother, I'm like, Halo 2 multiplayer. I was just like doing split screen and looking at the character models. I'm like, it can't get better than this. I'm like, what the frick? So dumb. But your mom's story on Metal Gear is just hilarious. Dead Planet, thank you for the $2. That was brilliant.
Where I get it from.
We all do. Not from your mom. That sounds weird. From our mom. Sorry.
Move on.
Dead Planet for the $2 super chat. I'm your brother. Hoping for a first party PlayStation game, not in third person. You might. Well, you might. You're going to get. Car games in third person. You can go first person, maybe. You will see VR a lot. You'll see Fire Sprite and all of that shit that Acer likes. That no one cares about. Rambling Entertain with a $10 super chat. Thank you, man. He goes, okay, one. Why did everyone ignore Dead Island 2? I know that game is not getting enough love from what I see. I did a video on that, and it's only got 1,000 views. And I said you have to play that game. It's not even I only played the first game. And number two, Xbox better not mess up this time. Otherwise, there will be no next one. I think he's suggesting. We'll get into the doom and gloom. Phase 23, Brooklyn, New York. Panel member who don't own a PS5, wait for the PlayStation 5 Pro. That, from Ace's best friend Tom Henderson, might actually potentially get announced at the showcase, because he was talking. He wasn't even sure. He said, but he hasn't seen this, but it's in the works. So you might also get this. Unlikely, maybe. Who knows? But if I do
want to quickly defend Acer, because obviously you're slagging off VR quite a lot. One of the best games I played this year is on VR. It's called. I had to Google it because I completely forgot. It's called Before Your Eyes. It's like an hour long.
It's so good you forgot the name of the game. Okay,
no, genuinely, like as a parent playing that game, absolutely wept my eyes out. It was harrowing. It's only an hour long, but I played that, and I'm not kidding when I absolutely bawled my eyes out. It got me right in the little like parent center of my heart. It like pierced me. So anyone who's got VR, or if they've got an Android and they've got a Netflix account, you can play it through Netflix. It tracks your eyes to progress the story, and when you blink or when you like look at different places, it moves the story forward. Beautiful game that perfectly uses VR. Absolutely incredible. So I will say there's a very good VR game I have played this year, but I played it on my phone through my Netflix account.
Also, just a solidarity with Asa, I do have a PSVR 2, so I am quite excited for the PSVR stuff. But Before Your Eyes, I actually played on PSVR 2, and it's a really great experience actually. And then I was like, I'll give this to my wife because I know what'll happen. And she played it, and then she was literally like,
really?
15 minutes to the end. So I think it's quite an emotional but nice experience.
And now your PSVR 2 doesn't work. Too many tears.
Yeah, too many tears. It's ruined the fucking OLED screen on it now. So.
Oh shit! Okay, I didn't know about that. But shout out to that. Thanks for letting us know about that. Rambling Entertained said, "Thank you for the super chat." He goes, "That wasn't a typo. Read it again." And you said, "Xbox better not mess up this time. Otherwise, there will be the next one." I think he's trying to be funny, saying that there will be another one. This is on the back of a lot of doom and gloom coming out on Xbox, feeling the pressure. And IGN's Destin Legary said, Starfield feels like Xbox's last chance at redemption. And then he's got a subheading where it says, with the Redfall being a huge disappointment after months of no shows, Xbox has one last shot at keeping its fans on board. That sounds pretty clear cut there. Am I not?
He's talking
wrong
shit.
there? He's talking shit. But then Justin comes out and says, y'all acting like I said Xbox will be forced to close up shop if Starfield is bad. Listen, if you're going to do clickbait, own your clickbait, okay? Don't try and wriggle out of it. We know what you do, Destin Legary. It obviously reads like clickbait. You're like, but in my article, in the third paragraph, fourth sentence, I said, actually, this is just going to be a little blip, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Maybe somehow, I don't know. Listen,
he knew exactly what he was doing.
Exactly.
This happened in the Xbox. This happened in the Xbox One era, rightfully so, because that was a terrible time for Xbox. It was in vogue to write terrible articles about Xbox.
Oh my god, that was so bad, so bad. That was an epidemic at that gen.
But this Destin article, like I read it earlier, and it read like something that you would read in Metro. Like it didn't. I'm like genuinely, I really like Destin's work. I think that he's done some great stuff. I think he's a good journalist. He puts out great content, but I just feel like this has completely missed the mark because I'm an Xbox gamer. I have been for 16 years now. I want motorsport more than anything. That's the game that I am like, this is going to be the direct, like, that's the game that I'm holding out for. That's going to completely showcase the way that the Series X can perform. Starfield's going to be good. It might not be the best game ever made, but it's going to be good. And it's going to be a serviceable RPG. It's made by, people are saying, what about Fallout 76? Not made by the same team. Like, this is going to be pure Bethesda doing what they do in an environment that no one's played in a Bethesda game in before. And it just ticks all the boxes. And it might not perform the best, and it might not have the best story, and the gunplay might not be great, but it's going to be a great RPG because that's what they do. It's their absolute pedigree is making brilliant RPGs. So he knew what he was doing. It's in vogue at the moment to sort, like, I've done it. I've got a few likes on tweets because I shout on Xbox a bit, but rightfully so, because I'm a paying consumer of their company that got given Redfall. Like, you know, you can come from a point where you can say, yes, Xbox isn't quite living up to where it needs to be, but to turn around and say, oh, Starfield is the last chance, but I didn't really mean it, just hypothetically in a certain scenario.
Yeah. I mean, if you back your clickbait just is out there, then own it. Don't try and damage control it after the fact. And yeah, its heading is there. The subheading is reinforcing it. And we know people don't read articles anyway. So maybe it's like, but it's obvious clickbait. and we talked about this. I've been quite emotive about this. I said Xbox need, and I will double down, triple down. And I know people hate me for this, but they need to deliver a stellar show. Xbox is going to get murked potentially by PlayStation next week. I'm not saying Xbox is not going to have a bad show, or this could be terrible, but Xbox's show can't just be okay. It needs to be stellar. And if PlayStation's, I'm expecting to be a great showcase, will raise the bar that Xbox needs to reach as well. Starfield, Asa, you mentioned this last week. Like, a lot of it's hyperbole, like make or break. It's not going to break anything. Starfield will be decent and not hitting the metal. People will forget it.
Hyperbole. I remember last time Starfield was supposed to come out on the 11th of November last year, and it didn't come out at all, and Xbox was doomed and never came back.
Well, it gets more doomed now, potentially, maybe. It's an interesting time because I think Sony are so confident that they've gone so much earlier. That 2 weeks. Rand was asking me, Gaz, like realistically, these things are etched in stone in months in advance. You can't expect Microsoft to make any changes. I think they can. I think if PlayStation's show is so powerful and so as strong as I think it will be, and a lot of people think it will be, Microsoft could say, you know what? All right, okay, we've got this showcase that has all this gameplay which we've done. Sorry, let me go back. What does Xbox need to do to have a great showcase? It needs to show gameplay for all the games. Avowed, Fable. If you show Fable, that will be great. That'll be huge. Perfect Dark, I'm not expecting. I think that's had dev troubles, but if you show that and we remove that fear and it looks good, great. State of Decay. Like, these are games you showed off ages ago. You show that off. We're not even asking for much here. Hellblade 2 Combat, possible release date. Boom, that'd be great. And they have some surprises. But
Viva Pinata 3.
Right,
no joke.
Oh, Bando.
No joke. Viva
Pinata.
Viva Pinata 3, I would love. Viva Pinata is my favorite Xbox title of all time. So please, Phil, I'm begging you now, cut this, send it to him. I want a new Viva Pinata.
I'm definitely not sending that to him. You like Viva Pinata, but like if they show the gameplay for those, and at the end they're like, all right, let's just the 12-month thing shat the bed. That's gone. If Xbox somehow is deluded enough to stick to 12 months and they say, we're going to do it this time now in earnest, Phil Spencer snorts crack off Aaron Greenberg's neck. There's no way that 12-month plan is coming back. It's dead. Finished.
Allegedly.
Done.
Right, well, I only missed part of that, but
We have to reiterate that Phil Spencer only allegedly snorts crack off of Aaron Greenberg.
We have no evidence to reinforce that point.
Yeah.
Apart from the pictures.
Nothing that Gaz says can or should be taken seriously at any point ever.
This is true. But if they show all those games and at the end they show off even logo reveals for things further away, I think this is fine. Like you said, Luke, it's a balance. And Xbox have a harder time to balance because they've got a greater duty to show off gameplay than PlayStation. But if they do, and they're not being, you're going to hate this word, Asa, hampered potentially by VR, which is going to be eating away at their hours time. Yeah, I know you hate it. But they can focus on all of that. And then they've got a Starfield showcase after, just dedicated to that. Listen, Xbox guys, you know me, I'm relentless, but I'll tell you, Xbox will bring it back potentially if they do this. Starfield is good. Forza is great. Starfield being good is like PlayStation can't do fucking Starfield. Just be real. There's no way PlayStation can do Starfield. They haven't got a studio that can do a Western RPG like that, insane space, that scope. Okay, so that review's well, boom, done. If it hits the 60 frame mark, which I don't think it will, but if it does any performance mode, that's an additional boon. Forza is going to shit on Gran Turismo. Let's be real. Well, it should. If it fucks it off, then I'm going to take so many L's. But that should be a big one because it's going to look great. It looks great. It's a next-gen game. It's doing ray tracing and racing with million contact tires. Shit. Fuck it. And so that's Forza. You got Starfield. And if you do Hellblade, somehow late 2023 release or early 2024, and it's good, boom, and the showcase is good, that's it. We're back. We're back to 2020 levels. Bring the hype. That is where it can happen. I'm not saying it will, but it's there. The end goal is there. Avowed shows off, looks good. Fable looks good. Hellblade Combat looks good. It comes out. The roadmap is there. This is why it's so close. This is why it's so much source. This is why it's so exciting. And all I can think about is these showcases. I want PlayStation Showcase to be good because I want them to kick the shit out of Xbox if they don't get their act together, or give them an impetus to deliver. And then they might in 2 months or 2 weeks. But I'll shut up, Gaz.
I do think that Xbox are going to have a good show. I genuinely think that they will have a brilliant show. They'll show off loads of good games. There'll be loads of indie games that are there. There'll be loads of Game Pass announcements. They'll show off some third parties. My thing is I think that Silksong will be there. I just think that it's been delayed so much. I watched the last the indie showcase they put on a few weeks ago. And I do think that Silksong will be at the Xbox showcase potentially. My big thing is that I think that Xbox will do a brilliant job. I just think that PlayStation are just... They're teeing up for the home run, and I don't know what Xbox realistically can do. The only way that Xbox can bring it back is with their games being good. This is the showcase. It's not really a write-off, but I think they have to just treat it as servicing people that are still sticking to the brand, and then they can just show off the great games over the last 6 months. Forza has to release second half of the year. Starfield is going to be a good game. I think if they come out and they can release Forza Motorsport, Starfield, and then Hellblade 2, that is a killer lineup.
That is a mad lineup.
And then add to that some good third-party games that they can bring to Game Pass. Then put in some solid indie games. That's a great lineup for the rest of the year that could then be the impetus for next year. Keep that momentum going. But how many times, Gaz, have me and you been in DMs well, they've shit the bed again.
Shit the bed again. That's all I've been doing. Just been chronic diarrhea for 2 years. I'm wanting some greatness here. And I'm just being harsh because I've been burnt so many times. It's hard for me to be hyped. I am hyped, but I'm cautiously not so optimistic because PlayStation showcases it. I just want to be I don't know.
It will be good. I
think it'll be decent, but I want it to be amazing. It has to be amazing.
Xbox don't have to just put on the best show that they've ever put on. They have to put on one of the best shows. One of the when IGN come up with their top 5 E3 showcases ever, they have to be in that top 5 in order for this year to sort of bring the momentum back. They have to steal that momentum back. And the only way they can really do that is by hitting the mark completely with this showcase and it being something people talk about for years to come. The one showcase that sticks in my mind is when Sony revealed the price of the PS3 and the audience gasped. Those are the ones that stick in your mind. They have to just come out and offer the best showcase they've ever done ever, and they need to wheel out every game they can. They need to just really smash the ball out of the park so far. They need to clear the fence at the back of the park, and I just don't know how they can do that when I know what Sony are going to put out. And I just
that is okay. I agree with you. I would have said that internally if I was at Microsoft, but how feasible that is, I don't know. I feel my expectations are more conservative. Show the gameplay, they look good. Show the 3 games. I think that's a lot. Yeah, and they've had Hi-Fi Rush as well, so that's 4 potential games if Hellblade comes out this year. Whereas PlayStation doesn't have any games for this fiscal year other than Spider-Man 2, as first party concerned. It's supplemented heavily by third party games, which you will see a lot of doubling down. It's very exciting times. I am with you, Harry, on your mindset, and I'm there with you, just in spirit. And just realistically,
I want them to do well.
Yeah,
but
I want them to do well.
How many times have we been here before where it's here we go again. Xbox have to do this.
Make or break time. Make or break time.
We never hear that. We never hear that from Sony and Nintendo ever. When was the last time someone said this Sony showcase has to be good, or that's it and it's done and it's over? If God of War isn't good, then the entire company is going to fold. That doesn't happen.
Well, Look, we're gonna find out. Look, Xbox know what they need to do. We know what they need to do. Well, the apologists may not. They'll just accept any kind of mediocrity. But it's exciting times. This time next week, we're gonna be finding out what happens. And Asa, we are live streaming the event. No, it's on a Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. Wednesday, 9 o'clock in the UK, so about the same time as this showcase starts, except Gaz can't afford to be late or will miss the PlayStation showcase.
I'll be there. I'm working from home on Wednesday. I'll be there. And it's going to be, we'll do live stream it. We'll do it high quality. We'll shut up whilst the trailers play. And then we'll go back and do a pre and post review. In fact, actually, it might be worth our while to start maybe half an hour earlier, Asa. Is
Probably
that okay?
not.
No,
nearer the start of the show.
Near the start of the show. All right, fine. 10 minutes before the show, we'll get hyped and blah, 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 and then we'll do this shit. It's been such a good. Thank you for 500 plus people still here. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the source. We got into some CMA business, and I think that has some good utility, great utility that I think people need to just perhaps save, because Luke Steele blessed us with his knowledge. Thank you so much, everyone who has been joining us. Man, before we go, you have to check the gents out. Let them do their outros. Luke, I hope you had a good time, man.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
Time.
Yeah, I've had a great time. Thank you very much. No, you're very welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, no, it's been great. I guess this is the bit where I say where I'm at. So yeah, just go and follow me on Twitter at LukeSteele90. And the only other thing that I do, like apart from sporadic podcast appearances, is I'm on the Indie Gamer channel with the Indie Gamer and Scott, where we talk about and review and do podcasts on indie games like once a month. So if you're into that, which you should be, because independent games are great, then go and check it out. And otherwise, I'll pop up and probably have another Twitter feud sometime soon. Probably not at this point, actually. I think I'm going to retire. But yeah,
retire on the win.
Retire. yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun, so thank you.
Thank you for coming on, man. And honestly, it was so insightful. And really, I hope people gleaned some good information from that. Chat says so. So thank you. Last but certainly not least, Harry, man, you're just my brother from another mother. You are.
I felt like I was on best behavior today. I don't think I embarrassed myself too much. I don't think.
That was best behavior. Shit.
Had a few moments. No, it's been wicked coming on. Obviously, prior to Gamers Watch sort of not existing anymore, we had both of you on the show, and we had great fun each time. Unfortunately, just like real life got in the way, and like I've got 2 kids now. Sean's getting married and he's got a baby on the way, and Duncan's got a lot of stuff that he does as well that just meant that we couldn't do this anymore. So it's amazing to be like back doing gaming content. I really enjoy it. I occasionally write for the guys over at Complete Xbox.
Shout out to them.
And
Jordy.
Wicked bunch of guys. Really enjoy the guys at Complete Xbox. They've got a great little Discord. They do reviews on all types of games. Really fun guys. They do like Monday nights. They do racing games together. They get together on Thursdays and do like a Discord like games night. And it's always a Game Pass game, so as many people can play it as possible. Always great fun. And yeah, I'm talking about UFOs and stuff now. That's my jam. So I've got it's called Paranormality. Isla's just literally linked it. It's
Wicked.
Pod Normality is our Twitter handle, and my Twitter handle is Harry Go Locky. And yeah, I talk about aliens and UFOs and Area 51 and stuff. It's all very fun, and I occasionally piss people off on Twitter with my terrible hot takes on gaming, like how Tears of the Kingdom is just a Ubisoft version of Nuts and Bolts. So I'll just leave everyone on
I'm
that.
I'm so glad that came out right at the end.
Yeah, with weapon degradation. Yeah, so no, really genuinely enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone in the chat for being so nice to me. I'm not the most easy to get on with person, and I don't think I upset too many people today. So thank you. And if you're blocked and you're in chat, fuck it, whatever, don't care.
You were doing so well until that last bit, but we're going to leave that as your legacy of this episode.
Bye, guys.
Oh man, but what a show, Asa, huh? Are you tired? I'm sorry. I said I was going to keep it to 2 hours because I know you have to wake up at 5, but I'm sorry.
Oh, earlier
This is
than
a good
5.
show.
Yeah, it's fun because I obviously hate talking about the Activision Blizzard King stuff over and over again. And some people have said that I'm like, I come across like a know-it-all or whatever else, which is like, I'm the
Who are
first
you
one to
talking
tell
about
you.
that?
There's people and there's people in chat as well, and I'm the first one to say I'm not an expert in any of this shit. But Luke is, right? So today we talk about ABK and we just cut out the noise. Everybody knows, like, Luke's obviously not giving definitive answers on what's going to happen because he's not a psychic. He's a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, and he's talking sense in such a brilliant way that I feel that was actually a really valuable topic for once, and hopefully we can avoid talking about it for a very long time.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully, though, like,
beforehand.
yeah, exactly.
Honestly,
Yeah,
Luke, like the way that you spoke about everything,
It was amazing.
cut the console war stuff out of it,
Oh, thanks.
and it was just like very matter of fact. This is what's true. This is what's not true. Glean that however you want, and yeah, it like completely like doesn't often happen that I'm not talking. So to keep me shut me up for an hour is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's
he's not wrong. This is my outro. I'm joking, Harry. I'm joking. I welcome the interruption.
Yeah,
That's
no,
very kind.
Luke was wicked. The only weakness I would say in everything you delivered, just being honest, is the fact that you said the deal 100% isn't going through.
Yeah, you quote me on that. It's definitely 1,000,000% not happening.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Double down on it. Thanks for that, Luke. Cheers.
Yeah. No, it may happen. I'm not a psychic.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, thank you,
And
man.
yeah,
I used to like
exactly.
the ABK chat. What?
That was good, like good chat, gleaning good information. And Harry, I'm joking. Obviously, you're very welcome to interrupt. It was great to have you on as well. It's been a long time coming. Gamers Watch was one of my favorite podcasts. I would actually say genuinely, if you are really bored and none of the current like still running podcasts are scratching the itch for you, just go and check out the old episodes because they were genuinely funny and really well produced. So it is a shame that has all stopped for the time being, but hopefully you get back to
I
it.
want to shout out my co-host Sean, who did all of that. He worked himself into an absolute burnout with it. He's one of the best guys. I'm his best man at his wedding in a few months' time, and he's one of the nicest guys ever. The production value that Sean put onto Gamers Watch is like professional level. It's next level stuff. So even if you just want to watch it to see how good his stuff is, Sean's a wizard. I'm just the loud idiot that said bollocks all the time.
You're a wizard, Harry. No, but sorry. There's a good episode when we talked about
our loud idiot. Gaz, do your outro.
Sorry. Yeah. So on that note, please do check out Gamers Watch. There's this wicked episode where we talked about how freaking stupid Fast and Furious movies are, and since that conversation, it's gotten worse. So yeah, they went to space.
They started stealing DVDs. Don't get me started again. Fucking started stealing DVDs.
that freaking series, man. I loved it. Then I went to space, and now there's just super soldier. Anyway. Thank you so much. It's been a long show. Thank you. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. We've got a video. I've got a video coming on the channel. I know it's been a while. I was just finding my feet, but it's about the CMA deal. How do I feel about it after this conversation? It's still going through. Somehow they'll fashion some magic. Remember these words, which you will use to deliver else to me, or potentially I will lord over your heads, because I've never been wrong. Ain't that right, Harry? Just like him. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care, and we'll do a Bangara outro.